name before anything else, right?
What's up, buddy?
Hey. How you doing, Jeremy?
Good, man. How you doing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Can't. Okay.
All right, hold on. Hold on. I guess if I mute the music. Yeah, there we go. All right, I think I heard you there.
Sorry, you can hear me now?
I can hear you now. You
Okay.
can hear me?
I got you. Yeah. I said, believe it or not, through all of this, I have not done a Zoom meeting. This is my first one.
All right. Well, everything is all about first.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, so yeah, thank you for joining. So
yeah, man.
Our first guest to drop on in. Again, I'm a glutton for punishment when I realize that I try to always get creative and think of something new. And it's like, well, what if we do this? And what if we do this? And again, it's like, don't pull it out at the 11th hour and try. It's like, yeah, but this is such a good idea, so again, that's part of my issue. So, but I've got some, I think as I messaged to you that I've got hopefully a few bottles that are still at my folks' house that are still waiting for me. So I'm running a little low on my, I think I got this a while ago, this is from Moon Rye. So that was,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So, all right. So here's,
I'm actually drinking the sherry finished.
Are you just straight from the bottle, no glass?
Well,
okay.
I mean, sometimes, not tonight though.
Right.
Cheers.
Cheers. So it's been an interesting year. I really appreciate the support from you guys, and love everything you guys do, especially your Friday shows. That's definitely.
Yeah, that's something, all right.
I heard a little tone of when I mentioned to do the hurricane dance, and I got a little bit more of a not a playful Jeremy there. It was like, no, don't, no. I may have to hurt you.
No, it's fine. I can't stop it. It's just going to happen regardless. So it doesn't really matter what I say anyway.
Right. So what do you got coming up here for 2021?
It's kind of exciting for us this year. At the end of this year, we kind of planned on doing a big launch on a bunch of different projects. And so at the end of this year, we actually currently have five different rums.
Right. Cool. So what do you got coming up here for 2021?
So we've got was that still me?
No, there was a little echo there. We had another guest join the room.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No worries.
Yeah.
So we've definitely got a couple of more beer barrel finished rums coming out this year. At least 2, possibly 3. That'll be the first time we've done 3 if we can get 3 of them out. But I know we'll at least have 2. We just yesterday got another barrel from a little winemaker in Ohio, Indian Springs Winery. So we're doing another wine finished rum. Of course, that's going to take some time to age out, but we'll have that started. We've got another barrel out at another winery in Central Florida, and right off the top of my head, I just lost their name, but they've got some wine wine aging in our rum barrel, and we're going to get that one back too. So we've got, we're trying to expand the rum lineup right now as much as we possibly can. The other thing we're probably going to do, and I haven't even told anybody this yet, and I'm not 100% sure it's going to happen, but we're talking about doing a bottled in bond series. So that'll be kind of interesting as well. We're just now getting our first barrels that are going to be 4+ years old. So it's about that time. So we'll see what we can do.
That sounds, yeah. So that's very promising, again, considering the year we've had.
Yeah.
And again, for those that don't know, I guess that hopefully everyone should know, because you're listening to the podcast and everything else that we're doing here. I guess the first introduction there is Jeremy is the head distiller, owner of Copper Bottom Craft Distillery in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Well, technically Holly Hill.
Holly
but
Hill.
Yeah, everybody knows Daytona Beach. Nobody really knows where Holly Hill is.
So, I think we talked about that in the podcast. It's the first block off of right in the Holly Hill there, right there by the.
Sure.
So, and I'll probably be up in the neighborhood in the next couple of days here visiting folks, and
I'll be here.
I will stop in and maybe just kind of just start an initial little conversation about the thing that we were talking about on the podcast about giving it a try and seeing what's involved with that. So very cool. So let's see there. Mr. Brad Brock joined in there. So, hey, Brad, are you there?
What's up? What's up, guys?
Hey.
Oh, man, look at this guy's setup.
Oh, yeah. This is my mentor. This is my podcast mentor.
Oh, get out of here, Paul.
Yeah.
But, just bring it in, though. Bring it in.
Yeah. So Jeremy, Brad is I don't know how to explain. He does everything, right? He's a musician.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
He's a full-time musician. He's a one-man band that plays all percussion and all other instruments with his feet, and then plays guitar up top.
Wow.
And host of the Jams and Cocktails podcast. So we need to get some Copper Bottom rum in there
Yeah, no kidding. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, for sure. We love rum cocktails first and foremost, for sure.
And actually, Jeremy, he's got actually a song he wrote with, and I'm going to screw it up, so I'm going to let you say it, Brad. Right, your rum song.
Yeah, you always struggle with this one. Once upon a bottle of rum. It's the beginning of every story I have that's worth anything.
That's awesome. I love it. It's really cool.
But I'm forsaking rum tonight, and I'm actually drinking scotch because I got these really great for Christmas. I know. I got these really great scotch ball ice cube maker things. Yeah. And it's something like one of those things I was like, I'll never buy that for myself, but if somebody ever wants to give it to me.
So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Those also work for rum.
Yeah.
Right here, Brad, right there.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. Look, you got a big cube too. Nice.
That's right. The ice cube molds that I got for Christmas was a lot smaller than the other ice ball kit that it takes up half the freezer, and and it's all sorts of stuff. So
yeah, this thing for these ice cubes is gigantic. The contraption that goes into it was pretty intense, but worth it. Didn't last very long, but worth it.
All right, we got another alum here has now joined us, and look at that safari hat. Or you just got back from the Dark Continent there?
Yes. I have the Sailor Jerry's.
So, all right, Jeremy, you are representing at least two out of four, right? Yeah, that's right, 2 out of 4. So, and Kirk was our first guest, and he loves it when I refer to his as the pilot, and that's all I refer to the first episode as. And we try to keep some anonymity about certain things, and he is a man of mystery. So also a good friend of mine, and partner in crime when it comes to I think lots of things other than just music too. So yeah, he was the first. He was the guinea pig, and I dragged him over to my practice place, and I said, "I want to start this podcast. Let's get it going. I want to start doing." And it was like that. We just need to shit or get off the pot, and he was the result of it. And half a bottle of some rum that I bought in the local ABC liquor store that never heard of before. And do you remember what it was, Kirk?
I do not, but it's the first time I've ever had rum just on the rocks.
Some would say it's the only way to have rum. I definitely prefer my rum on the rocks.
Yeah, I think it was a Mexican rum.
Wow. Not a lot of those.
Yeah, and it was a rapan, I think it was. So, so it was interesting, the story, I guess, again, as trying to explain how to make rum to, the guy who makes rum here. Right. And
I'm learning every day, man.
Oh, aren't we all? And it was, I guess, just the soil that the cane is grown in there in Mexico. It's like a red. It had a little bit, right, Kirk? It had a little bit more of a taste, like a tequila taste, more.
Yeah, definitely was more of a tequila vibe to it.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of Mexican rums are very earthy. They have a lot of earthy notes to them. It kind of like tequila does. It kind of has that kind of vibe to it. It's not. I can understand why you'd say that, because a lot of them do really have that earthiness. It's hard to explain other than earthy. There's got to be a better word for it. I just not coming to me right now. But yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean.
So it wasn't too bad. It was half the bottle, and again, the wives were looking for us on a Saturday afternoon while we're two old guys sitting in our dad man cave away from home, and so yeah. So, but then
away from home, it's always good to have one.
It's probably not a bad place if I remember the doghouse, because it's got a fridge, it's got a futon couch, and it's got a bathroom. Just there's no shower.
I mean,
Paul, for 2021, I'm going to get you a ice machine, because I think that's the only the bad part about it was the ice was a little frozen over. So if we get some fresh ice in there with the rum, we'll be on point.
I laugh only because there's a bag of ice in the freezer side of the fridge, and I have to, every time I go over there, I have to take it and smack it against the rock wall that's there to try to break it up, and try to at least get some sort of small chunks of ice.
We'll get some fresh ice in there.
No, I'm looking forward to sprucing that place up, and I know, Brad, you haven't been, but and I think you've seen the videos, and Jeremy, I'm not sure, I've seen some of the videos of at the we call the Drum Shack, or it used to be the Jam Shack, with the other 4 dad guys that I was in a band with, and it is definitely. It's definitely not. It's got character. Let's just put it that way. So.
If you ever pull up the carpet there, all the murder spots from days past, I'm sure will come to light.
No black lights allowed, huh?
Right.
Well, yeah, because when we first moved in, there was this couch that nobody ever wanted us. Nobody was daring to sit on, because it was like from the 70s. There's a big mirror on the wall. The big rock wall on the side is like, yeah, there's something really weird that must have been happening here before us. But we'll digress there. But it's we're looking forward to it. So like I said, so Jeremy was our Copper Bottom was our first Distillery podcast we had guest, and I came out to visit. I think actually, again, this year, as we all know, has been the bizarrest year when it comes to what's next and what to expect, and a lot of challenges, I think, for all of us, having to deal with the big thing that was on the whole world's radar. And we initially talked, and I appreciate the even let me come up and entertaining me. the idea to sit down and to talk and learn more about Copper Bottom and talk some other things. But unfortunately, the first try was kibosh because of COVID concerns that I had. And
oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That was a last minute cancel on that one.
Yeah. So here on my first introduction, it was like, hey, let's do this. Oh, this guy's a little flaky and trying to use the COVID card, which I guess is a real thing now. You can actually play the COVID card and people would understand and don't want nothing to do with it.
I was about to say, yeah, I think it would work better than just about any other card you can play.
Right. It's like, oh, well, my kids are sick, or I something else is going on. That excuse is, probably not as good as the COVID card now. But yeah, so that was yeah, I'm glad we were able to reschedule, and I'm glad again, I didn't want to risk anything until we got some, confirmation on those things, and had a good time, and definitely need to come up there to get some samples. So Brad, I've got to be going up there in the next couple of days, and I have a couple bottles that are sitting in my parents' house that are waiting. Hopefully they're still there.
Hopefully they're still there, right?
Yes. So and Jeremy, the basket that my mom had picked up and sent to one of our Instagram followers who was playing along with our rum, International Rum Day fun, and so she took the bottle out of the basket, shipped everything else, but then I'd sent another bottle to our friends at Caribbean Soul Trekkers.
Oh, nice.
And so they got the bottle, just kind of, and again, I keep telling people, the more I learn about it, it's like, it is almost crazily impossible to ship distilled stuff.
Especially if you tell them about it. Yeah, it really is. It's distilled spirits, it is difficult. And one thing I've learned, or I've been told, I should say, is USPS is basically a no-go. I mean, it's got to be FedEx or UPS, and even then it's kind of dicey. Even us, when we have to send spirits out to spirit competitions and stuff like that, we have to put special labeling and all this samples only and all these weird things on there so that everybody knows exactly what it is, so that it doesn't actually make it to the site. Right.
And I guess what's the worst thing that could happen if somebody shipped? It's just they just get confiscated and destroyed, I would assume.
Usually just gets taken, yeah. I've had a couple people that have told me, I tried to send a bottle and it never got there, and they never even heard anything else about it. It just never got there, and that was it. So there was no like, hey, never do this again. It was just like, oh, it never made it there. Oh, well.
The mailman was very happy to intercept the...
Right.
It kind of makes you wonder, because there's several companies like Drizzly and
Cartel, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, that actually their business is shipping spirits and wines and things like that. And you wonder, like, I mean, do they have a perpetual license that they renew that allows them to do that kind of thing, or part of their business approval, or it makes you wonder.
The way I understand it is that, so we actually have a retailer. If you can actually go to our website and ship our products all over the country. The way I understand it is that liquor store that we work through actually has a license to sell in every state that they're allowed to. And so they have to have that specific license in order to do that. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's the way I understood it. But I know that me personally, even as the distillery, I can't ship it to an individual. And it also depends on what state you're in. Some states allow you to ship into them, but not out. Some people allow you to ship out, but not in. I don't know. It's all crazy liquor laws in this country. That's for sure.
Yeah, the same. Well, my friend Johnny Ringo, who owns the Code Rum Company down here our way, they don't distill directly, but he even can't ship out his own product. He has to go through his distributor to have it put out anywhere. So it's really really bizarre. It's a far cry from the farmers market days, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we're
Grab my
literally
booze.
yeah, I mean, we're literally working under old prohibition laws that from the 1920s that had never really been changed. And we're working to change some of them because we're definitely way outdated and we're way behind the beer and the wine industry. I mean, shoot, you can go out to California and have any kind of wine shipped to your house, cases of it. You can be on
Right.
wine clubs and do all these things, but you can't do it with distilled spirits. It doesn't really make any sense.
Speaking of distilled spirits,
Right.
Mr. Paul Robertson.
That's right. Beer barreled rum there. So this is, like I said, it's almost gone. So I said I got to restock there. So again, Jeremy, everything, I don't know, I'm not sure if maybe the beer barrel stuff, but your Copper Bottom is available in ABC and Total Wine, and where else? Local,
Yeah,
I guess locally.
So our silver rum and our vodka, which we only do one vodka, everything else we do is rum. We're primarily a rum company. But our silver rum and our vodka are available at all the ABCs. We're available at most Total Wines on the East Coast anyway of Florida. You can also, like I said, you can go to our website and even our specialty stuff. Like right now, I'm drinking our sherry finished rum that we aged 2 years in a bourbon barrel, 1 year in an Oloroso sherry cask that we got from Spain. And this is available online. We set aside a few cases of each of our specialty products and we sell them online. It's a little bit more expensive that way, but unfortunately people in, Pennsylvania can't get here quick enough to get it sometimes, and they want to have it just shipped to their house, so we can do that.
Right. So we had another guest here drop in. So how you doing, Eric? Uh-oh. I think the cat's got your tongue.
Can't hear you, Eric.
We at least see he's drinking though. That's all that really
Yes,
matters.
that's all. Yeah. drums and alcohol. That's what I see in that picture right there. So he's got everything, right?
Speaking of, gentlemen,
great
I have to go
alcohol.
get a refill, and I think I'm gonna jump on the rum train and find something good over at the bar. So I'll be right back.
All right. So just real quick, and I'll go ahead and introduce Eric there. And Eric was our first online guest. So episode 3, and after our pilot episode, Mr. Kirk, and then a couple local friends, a band, drummer and bass player, friends of mine, that was in person. And then it was lockdown city happened, and Eric had him and I connected, and via on social media or something, and he said, yeah, sure, I'll come on the podcast, and had a lot of good feedback on the show there. Again, it was let's try to figure out technology now, and it was supposed to, this Zoom stuff and online was supposed to happen further down the road, because again, drinking like remote is okay. We're still we're socially drinking, right? Having a cocktail, but it still doesn't have the kind of feel that you would normally associate with, sharing some spirit. So welcome, Eric. Oh. Yeah, we still don't have the audio there. So. I don't know. You don't hear him, Jeremy, do you?
No, I don't hear any.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And I'm back.
All right. So.
All right, what'd you get?
So I'm jumping on the rum wagon. Code Rum is a sponsor of our podcast and of my music stuff. And Ringo's a good buddy. Have you ever met Ringo, Jeremy?
Not personally. No, I haven't.
He's wild. You would know if you did. But so this is their barrel aged rum. They call it the Commodore's Cut. It's all pirate themed. It's super cool. But these, like most of his other rums, are pretty sweet And like I personally like a good barrel aged rum. I like it kind of that funky woody kind of taste, and so this is like their super coveted kind. It took me years now to get my own bottle for free because pirates don't pay for anything.
That's true. That's true.
So in commemoration of the Drums and Rums podcast end of year party here, I'm gonna tap into my pirates stash and drink a little Code Rum Commodore's Cut with you guys here. And I used my last ball of ice.
Man, that thing even looks pretty clear too.
Right?
Man,
I'm a professional drinker. What can I say?
Around over there, I guess, huh?
Cheers, you guys.
So, and that right, you cracked that bottle open for my show that I came on and did with you there as well.
That's
so
right.
So that was pretty good. So I appreciate the.
I made the huge mistake of letting my brother, who was also on the show with us that night, pour it for everybody. I just wanted everybody to have a little taste so that I could keep my coveted bottle of Commodore's Cut on the shelf away from, prying eyes and grabbing hands. And he was quite liberal with his pours, and my heart broke for every glass he poured. But I couldn't imagine sharing it with better people. So, Paul, here's to you, man. Thanks for being a guest on my show. Thanks for having me as a guest on your show. Cheers, man.
Cheers. So yeah, so a little little catch there. It's not not the COVID cough. So
whoa.
It's the rum cough.
Is that too soon? Is that too soon? No,
you're good.
All right. So, all right. So I think Eric is going to try to come in and join back in there. So let's go ahead and got another alum coming on in here, Dave Bloom. So joining here in a second. So one interesting thing before we go to Dave was I approached this podcast again, had the idea. I think if everyone who's listened to the podcast over the last 8 months or whatever it is now, I've told the story, and it's just one of those. The irony is I'm not really a podcast listener guy, and just to kind of hit the idea was wanting to do it, had this, and Brad, you get to appreciate this because Chris Springer, one of our mutual friends, and actually who's really kind of to blame for all this, hooking, connecting Brad and I up. And we had, he told me about Brad's Jams and Cocktails earlier this year. I had told him about my idea. He goes, wow, you guys have very similar kind of concepts. And so as I mentioned there, drag Kirk into our drum shack, over there, and then start drinking and talking about music and stuff, and the naked bassist he told the story about, and and we had gone in, and again, not knowing anything and not know how to approach it, and just knew let's just go and start talking and ask some questions and so forth. So after 8 months now, March, I think, was the first posted podcast after 8 months, and now over 1,000 downloads. This will be the 25th episode. So I've also, I think for those of you that know me outside of all this, what I'm also involved, my other part of my life, my other identity
Batman?
Is, yes. Yeah, you didn't have to give it away though. But it was definitely a trying year for me to try to do this and trying to learn so much and go at things kind of, I don't know. I'm probably like what all of the books that tell you how to start a successful podcast. I probably did everything they told you not to do and how to approach things, learn about audio engineering and microphones and probably have bought bajillion cables to connect things, and I'm amazed I'm even able to do this. So Brad, actually I'm in my I've talked about the kids the room that has the router and the Wi-Fi. I'm sitting in that room tonight, and hardwired right into the router. So it's just, that's, again, I've, some of the things I said, learned a lot from Brad there, from that aspect there. But yeah, 1,000 downloads later, who would have thought, anyone would have an interest in this, as well as I've had there's been listeners from every part of the globe here that I've, over the last 25 episodes. So I think I'm blown away the fact that people are interested. I appreciate everyone listening. Big shout out to folks in Europe. I know, a lot of listeners there in Europe that have been very consistent. Again, it just kind of blows my mind that somebody has an interest in whatever the heck I'm talking about here. But it's you guys that make it the interesting part. Y'all have great information, great stories, great things to share. And I appreciate y'all definitely coming on tonight here for our little review and also having the podcast. So before I go any further on, I want to introduce our next guest has come on here. So good evening, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
I know. I'm watching. I'm like, I got nothing, man. I might have to mute and turn off the camera and go get something. I feel left out.
So Dave was our, I believe it was our fifth guest, right?
Something pretty early on. We had talked about when you had gotten things going and the lockdown had just happened and it was just chaos ensues. And we had talked and kind of jumped on. In fact, I know it was earlier in the year to that point, early enough for you as well, because this view over here, I'm just using a laptop so I could slide that wall wasn't there, and that was the back wall that we used when we had shot that episode. So yeah, it's been a while. Pretty early on.
So I'd been following Dave for quite a few years online. His drum videos, his a lot of the little quickies of the day, as I think we talked about on the podcast. Yeah. And so again, it was one of those first go ahead and just the approach that, what's it hurt to go and ask somebody to come on, and has anybody have an interest in wanting to listen and talk and drink rum and shoot the what. And so Dave, again, somebody, another person that I kind of knew a little bit more because again, following you on social media previously, and then sitting down and having that conversation. So I think do you remember what rum we had that day?
I do, actually. It was the one I couldn't pronounce. It was a Spanish name. It was from Puerto Rico, and they were this. See, I have no short-term memory, but long-term memory, I remember everything. My wife complains about that. It was a family. It started in Puerto Rico, and they ended up in Cuba, and then they eventually ended up in Florida. Or that's how you had connected with it, something like that. But it was a family rum, and I can't remember the name of it. There was a V in there. It was Spanish. And I pronounce it wrong a lot of times on the air until I figured out how to say it the right way. And then we also had it. I can't remember what else we had it with, but I remember there was one was a cold brew based thing, and the other one was with some ginger beer and stuff. See, I remember my alcohol. That was well, I remember it, and then I started drinking it, and then we, the show takes its turns and its tolls, and it's like, wait, what? Yeah. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think I finished the bottle. I have still the other thing you sent me that went with it for one of the drinks, but I enjoy going through, and tasting different delicious rums.
Now, I think you had shared that you had a story that you probably don't want to reshare, but that involved a little too much rum and swinging from above the drum riser and trying to do Mary Lou Retna. And
the fall. And it's actually funny. So that was in 2007 at a King's Castle show that we had talked about. And King's Castle is a band I was in for a little while back in New York. just for 2007, but we're still, still good buddies. And I had talked about in that show that then we hadn't talked for almost 10 years. After I had left the band, I eventually left New York, and then we reconnected. And then in 2017, we started recording and released 2017, early 2018, we released that 10-year anniversary album from the last one we had done. Well, today and yesterday, I actually just started tracking our newest album. So it's funny that you bring that up, because I've been talking to those guys nonstop for the past week, and just started going through a bunch of tracking with some of the new gear that I had purchased. This 2020 has been a rough year for everybody, but I spent a lot of money in 2020 buying new gear. So
speaking of new gear, David,
yeah,
I can't notice. I know this is all about drums, but that bass behind you, is that a
I do. That is a jazz bass.
Yes.
And then hidden behind here, I've got an Explorer. I play guitar and bass as well. The reason I hung that up in here is I primarily just track drums for people. But two of my clients, one in New York and one in Nashville, hire me. They're both songwriters, and they hire me to do rhythm tracks. So I do bass and guitar as well for those. So I ended up the bass I picked up right before my son was born. He'll be 3 in April. Hoping that he would be a bassist, being a drummer, let's kind of have that. My dad and brother guitarists, and I was like, all right, we need a bass player in the family. And then I brought out the Explorer from New York that had still been sitting at my parents, just because I needed to do some tracking with that. But yeah, that is, I love that bass. It was a reissue of their 70s version, so it's got some mods on it for a one-time thing. So
yeah, it's
not to get too far off the drums.
I like it.
So Dave, I guess this will be the time that we're going to announce also that Kirk and I'm franchising out, and Kirk is gonna have a spin-off podcast called Bass and Bourbon. So
ooh, that is I'd be part of that. I do my other favorite beverage besides rum is bourbon. So I don't know if this is like if this is a joke or for real, but I'm in if it's real. Right?
You heard it
I'm
here.
not that,
Heard it here
not
first.
that great, but
that's right.
Hey, officially, I'm a professional because I get paid, by 2 clients to play. So that kind of makes it important enough that I can drink some bourbon with you. So yeah, why not?
That's right. Yeah.
Bourbon, and what would go with guitar? Gin. I'm not a big gin fan. Guitar and gin.
Well, I know. No, so
I mean, I'm just giving you all these ideas.
I know. That's it.
Remember, this is live. Like, oh, Dave.
That's right. Somebody better get out to GoDaddy and go get
lock that down now.
Hold on one second. I got one of my dogs that wants to escape.
Oh yeah. And we were talking about the name. Brad had hit me up about the name. Give me the hot seat questions on his podcast, and he had asked how we came up with the name. And as we mentioned, our good friend Chris, mutual friend, had told me later when he was listening to the podcast, Brad, he says, I was listening and I was like, don't you come up with some friggin' grandiose answer to that, because I know that all you thought was when you told me was, hey, this kind of is catchy and it rhymes, so let's go with it.
Which so you answered honestly, and I think it's the best answer, honestly. Like I drums and rums, it rhymes, but it's still such a great concept. It makes me want to be a better drummer now.
It was some Scottish thing, you're right, back in the day. That's
right. That's right. Yeah, I think Chris was waiting for me to he started hearing me expound a little bit and kind of like starting to, and he was, I think, was ready to jump off the bridge there and say, call bullshit. And I said, wait a minute. I came back to that answer. I came back to it. So I may have kind of went up, but I landed on the right on the X, marks the spot. So it's pretty funny.
Hey, that's one thing you'll find out in the spirits industry is everybody's got a story. Doesn't matter. Everybody's got some great grandfather's recipe that they dug up in their backyard or some crap that everybody's peddling a story. So there you go. You're fine.
There you go. So the rum that Dave was talking about was originally, I think Bacardi now owns the recipe, or it was sold to Bacardi, but it was from the Archibald family in Cuba. So a lot of things that happened in the 60s when Castro came in, took over basically everything, and they fled out of Cuba, had the recipe. And I think they were trying to, I think they still maintained in Puerto Rico, and then ultimately they came to the US, and then I think they ultimately, like I said, they sold it to Bacardi, as is. But yeah, so yeah, that was a pretty good, again, it was a different cocktail. We haven't had I know Dave is a coffee drinker, and then who's your coffee that you?
Honest Roast Coffee, yeah.
So have you?
Just Honest Roast.
Did you?
Actually, the story how I got that endorsement is pretty cool. I mean, it's not like over the top, but it's, I guess, more grandiose than, breaking out my third grade rhyming dictionary in Drums and Rums. But no, no, that was a cool one. It was again, Matt had followed me on Instagram for like a year and a half or something, and I'd got back from NAM, and I'd started my Sabian endorsement, and I started my Sledge Pad endorsement. I got a few other things going, and I remember messaging him. I mean, this is what I told you. I was like, is there such thing as a coffee endorsement? He's like, there could be, and short time later, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm getting free coffee. So, and he's a great dude, makes great coffee. It's not just like, I don't drink crap coffee, but yeah, man, that was, I guess that's not grandiose, but we'll just make it seem like it is.
Coffee is so important. You never have to explain yourself when it comes to drinking good coffee. To me, it's the only way to start the day. And I'm not a breakfast guy, so I don't eat breakfast, but I will drink a good cup of coffee, and that kind of sends me on my way.
Oh yeah, and I need that 1 o'clock cup too.
Yes, sir.
That 1 o'clock. I realized as right around when I had, I didn't have my son, my wife had him, but when our son was born, and that one, especially on weekends, when you're just entertaining nonstop, and 1 o'clock hits, you're like, oh god, and suddenly kid nap becomes family nap, and you're like, I gotta get a cup of coffee. This is bad, man. So I think I had hair before he was born, but I don't know.
That is the truth. I miss I miss those days that when your kid's ready to you want to take a nap? Okay,
yeah.
Now forget it. So, but yeah, Dave, what do you? So as you know, obviously as you mentioned, covered a lot of other multi-instrument, and actually that's one of the things is and Dave had. After our podcast, and I appreciate it. Again, this kind of shows what the drum community is, that, everyone's kind of referring other folks and helping others, or kind of a very close-knit community where, you connected me with a couple other guys, and one we did podcast with, and the other one we were still trying to, again, scheduling and COVID.
Who are you still trying to work with?
We're working with Aaron. So we're sharing some emails. I know he's been, I guess, super busy with his remote with Drumeo. I think he's doing a lot of remote stuff.
He signed a contract, so he had done stuff with them. I don't know, it was per diem or how you classify it, independent contractor or whatever. Mm-hmm. But he had done stuff with them because he was also doing stuff with Modern Drummer. Basically, anytime any of those larger format groups would do, like proggy kind of, odd time stuff. He's basically kind of like the go-to guy for that, as far as educational, without people spending, how much money on, like Terry Bozier or something. But yeah, he'd been busy with that. And then he did sign, oh man, it was a Wednesday too. We actually talked about this because we were going to do my education series that I was doing with the master classes, I was going to have him do several, and we were going to do a series based on his book. And he had just signed a deal with Drumeo to do, I don't know the details with it, because I don't know if that starts next year or when it starts, but a lot more involved than what he had been doing, more of a semi full-time thing with them, because he produces a ton of content. He's up there, he doesn't do a lot else we talk about up in Canada. He just he does that. He has a cat. He got into like going to shooting ranges, and I think that's it. So he's got a lot of time. We talk about that, but he was really stoked about that. So I know that his schedule's pretty tight because it's just a lot of high demand with that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's all good. I know it, and as he mentioned that Canada had gone, it was about maybe a month ago we last chatted, was Canada kind of went back into a pretty much of a lockdown again. And but yeah, I can't wait to have him on, because his project there, it's his drumming that, the style or as you mentioned, prog, that odd timing, and it's like, holy shit, that's just blowing my mind, watching.
Oh, it's awesome, man. He's just a great dude to talk to about that stuff. We the only time we had actually met in person was at NAMM a couple of years ago, almost 3 years ago. I can't believe it's next week, or this Friday is already the new year. But just a cool dude to talk to about that stuff. He's huge Danny Carey fan, and I guess that kind of like was planting the seed when he was younger to really just kind of get into that stuff. But we love chatting about that stuff, because I'm very into polyrhythms, and the weirder, like he's always said, like, dude, the weirder I can push it, I'll be like, dude, check this groove out. And it's like, it takes like 17 measures to recycle of like 13/8. And he's like, but what else can you do? We're like, can you get like something different going on your left foot? I was like, I guess, like, I don't know. Can I? He's like, grow a longer nose. And like, that's like his mindset is like, and it's awesome because he goes full on. And I actually sent him a message today earlier, because I'd gotten all this stuff because we're working on the new King's Castle album. And one of the songs goes through, I'm trying to remember, like 7 time signatures and then 2 tempo changes throughout that. And I sent it to him. I'm waiting for him to reply to me like, that's it. I'm like just waiting for that to be the response. But he's so cool to talk. I mean, when he gets on, man, like he's got crazy, stories. And as far as just drums go, man, his mind is wrapped around some deep concepts that you'll come out of a conversation with him feeling smarter. And drunker, because there'll be a lot of rum involved too. Right? It's like you won't remember anything he said, but in the zone you're like, oh my god, mind blown.
Yeah. So Jeremy, they have, you've got a distiller or ship, it can ship to at least Michigan or somewhere right there near the border, right?
Oh yeah, we can get close.
All right.
We can get close.
Just throw it over the border. Catch.
Yeah. That's right. All right. So we need some volunteers for some rum mules.
I know some pirates. I know some pirates.
I got a guy for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that's pretty cool. And again, I appreciate hooking up with. We were able to meet up with Juan and Carlito Mendoza.
Phenomenal drummer.
Oh, watching his videos, some of the stuff he posts, I'm just like,
oh yeah.
I mean, y'all. I will say this, and hopefully nobody takes this the wrong way, but is maybe the podcast has been a little bit of a selfish thing for me, because I've learned so much from a lot of everybody, and then wanting to make me a better drummer, and different styles and different techniques and different approaches and again, I think everyone's been very positive. Everyone, again, helping each other share their brand, share their products, share their music, etc. And so again, there's a lot of times it's been, like I said, very crazy for me. And I've had to say, I've hated to admit a couple times that the podcast is unfortunately has taken over a little bit more of my time, and I don't necessarily have the drums in the house to actually sit down and play the drums, and play. And I know I should be practicing more, and I know there's a lot of things there's to it. But hopefully 2021 kind of settles down a little bit and kind of gets at least me recharged. And again, that's an admiration for y'all to help inspire, everybody. So, but that's definitely
you say that, Paul, but then you jammed one day, get back onto the drums, and then you're off with the gig for the next and 5 days later.
Well, yeah, right. It's right. So Kirk's referencing we have not posted up this podcast that we had done 2 weeks ago about. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. Kirk came on and joined me, and this was an in-person one with a friend of ours, a good friend of ours, Graham Christie. And Kirk has played with Graham in many years here in South Florida in a band called Baruz. And so, again, Graham is also a drummer at heart, but he also plays guitar, he sings, and he's, the driver, main of the project. And again, he's shared a story again, and I'm kind of a little leaking some of the podcast here.
But it was just funny that it's like we finally jammed out. It's like, oh, this is great. Got to play. And then next thing you know, I get a text like, hey, I'm going to play at this place.
That's right. Yes.
So when you keep saying like, oh, I haven't been able to play drums, it's like you go from 0 to 11 in 5 days.
That is pretty much Kirk. You probably know me the best. Yeah, that is pretty much sums me up at times of going from 0 to 11. Yes, and so yeah, we after the podcast, we did a podcast over at the practice, the Drum Shack, and everybody brought their instrument. We did our podcast, and we should have recorded. Well, I don't know. I know most people kind of a little iffy about recording live or anything. But we had a great time. So Graham and Joint jammed, and the three old guys got a chance to get out of the house for a little bit and crank it up because again, any chance you get to turn up the volume and actually play in the place where we're at, nobody had, it's like kind of in a little bit of an industrial park. And we had I had a great time. Just kind of, again, I don't get a chance much to play. I've done a lot of traveling this year. For other non-podcast stuff, and then the irony is, then a couple of days later, I get asked to go and sit in with a duo at the famous Square Grouper Tiki Bar in here in Jupiter. And again, I'm gonna now check that off the resume that I've actually played. That's right. There you go. Right. So Brad's got. Hey, did you get that hat after playing there yesterday or something? Or
No, so the story, not to derail your story, but the story of this hat.
Story to story.
So I'm a hat guy because like many of us here on the Zoom chat, my hair is not so much there. So I wear hats. So I was at Square Grouper setting up to play a gig, and this was a few months ago, so it was still pretty hot. And I'm like setting up, and something smelled so bad, and I thought it was my drum rug. And I was like, man, I need to throw this thing away or get a new one. I was like, this thing stinks really bad. And I left that area and went back to the van to get more gear, and the stench followed me. And I was like, what the hell is that? And it was the hat that I was wearing on my head. I guess I had sweated in it so bad in a past gig that it reeked. So I didn't have any other hats in the van. So Square Grouper, both the Fort Pierce location in Florida and the Jupiter, Florida location, both have these great like kiosks of merchandise and whatever you want, koozies, shirts, hats. And so I went to the manager and I was like, listen, my hat smells so bad I can't live my life. So I need a new hat. Would you sponsor a square grouper hat for the band tonight. And they were like, yeah, obviously, here you go. So that's how I wound up with this hat. And it's got a nice mesh back, so it probably won't stink as bad eventually. I'm hoping.
So wait, that's all you got to say?
Would
Was
you like
that
the
Jeremy?
sponsor?
I
They're a
said you
sponsor
really
now.
are tired. You don't pay for anything there, do you?
Yeah. Brad, you can get you a copper bottom hat.
Yeah, we could definitely make that happen.
I'm in. We ought to have a Code Rum copper bottom like show off or like a I don't know, something,
Merch off.
something fun. Yeah. Merch off.
off.
Yeah. I'm really just trying to find an excuse to get in a room with copper bottom and Code Rum and drink all the rum.
That's easy. Who needs an excuse for that?
Well, you say that, but then you have to deal with me whilst we're in
Yeah.
rumcosis, as I like to call it.
Well,
I just coined that today. So
there,
right.
there you go. Hashtag that. Somebody's keeping track, right?
I'm
Because
GoDaddy right now, just trying to get that one.
Rumcosis.com.
There you go. There you go. So, Jeremy, do you have? I know with some of your folks there that come through, is enough traffic? Do you do any live music in there, or have somebody kind of?
I would love to. The problem we have in the spirits, in the distillery and the spirits industry in Florida anyway, is that we can't serve drinks. So the problem we have is people come in, they take a quick tour, they'll try some stuff and they get out. A lot of the breweries, you can sit down and have a few drinks, hang out. There's usually a food truck or something. And it's just it's an atmosphere in a place that's more conducive for music. We have had sometimes if we do like a special release or a new launch of something, we'll have a food truck and somebody playing music for a while, but that was pre-COVID. We didn't do any of that this year. I think we probably did one last year and maybe a couple the year before. It's one of those things that we would love to do, because if that was the case, we'd be serving cocktails here. And I'd be more than happy to have everybody here playing if I could serve cocktails.
That's so crazy, man. You hit the nail on the head earlier when you were talking about how like beer and wine is light years ahead of liquor distilleries in terms of being able to have, a tasting room or anything like that on property. Because even like we have some wineries down in the Treasure Coast area where we're at, and they have same deal. You can go there and drink all day long.
Oh yeah.
All the breweries, they all have a tap room. You can all get your fill, and food trucks, the whole 9 yards.
Well, and you can even walk out with a 6-pack or a keg or whatever you want from your local breweries, and same thing with your wineries. The crazy thing about distilleries is, in Florida anyway, I can only sell you, if you come in today and you really like our single barrel rum, I can sell you 6 bottles per year, and I'm supposed to keep track of that.
That's insane.
It's the craziest thing ever. Like you can't consume it here. I can't even charge you to taste it. I can only charge for a tour, but I'm not going to do that. So we do free tours and tastings. But you come in and you really like our product, I can't serve you a cocktail with it, and you have to buy a bottle that you can't consume on site. It's got to be consumed off site. And if you really like it and you live right down the road, I can only sell you 6 bottles a year. Now you can go down the street to the local liquor store and buy 6 cases a day if you want, but from me, I can only sell you 6 bottles a year, which is crazy.
That is nuts.
Right.
It definitely sounds like a state thing though, because I'm originally from New York. I'm down in Texas now, and but up in New York, some wineries also distill some different stuff, and you can do tastings and drink stuff there, and you could take it to go. I don't know what the limitation is.
Right.
So 6 a year sounds.
No, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what we have here. But New York has actually got some of the best distillery laws in the country. It's funny because you would think New York has got some, they lock down a lot of stuff up there, but they've got some of the best, distillery laws. You could serve cocktails, you could self-distribute, I believe, to a little bit. I think you even get a break on state excise taxes if you use a certain percentage of local, New York ingredients. So I mean, they have it really figured out up there, and it's Texas too. My brother actually lives in Texas, and same thing. You can go to a distillery, have a cocktail, sit down.
But they still won't let. But here in Texas, they won't let you buy on Sundays. So
well,
I can't agree with all
you
of
can't have
them.
everything, right?
I remember back when I was a sponsored skier, and we went out to Tahoe and we flew into Reno, and you get off the plane, there's no rules. You just walk into Walmart and grab yourself a bottle of Jack and drinking it while you're walking down the aisle, and half done, be like, I don't know if I want this. Can I put it back in the shelf?
It didn't quite taste right.
Dave, you're not standing in the return aisle back at the exchange, and saying, you want your money back.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Do I get the deposit on this? Can I get that 5 cents back? Do they do?
But you mentioned it. It is interesting. Is here in Florida, I would think, and again, it is city. The jurisdiction is different where you're at. But for the most part, here, maybe South Florida, a lot of we don't have. Well, I don't know. What is it? I guess I'll ask Brad and Kirk since you guys are down here too. Is it Sundays or at least till noon, or you can go in it?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think with Florida it's a little bit different, but I definitely agree. There are some weird laws when it comes to even breweries, right? Even if you establish a brewery down here, you can't serve food. Like there's all these weird little rules that just kind of like very difficult.
There are a couple breweries that I work with regularly that have, I hate to say that they capitalized on the COVID situation, but in a sense, like a lot of those regulations were loosened up a little bit so that they could. So like, for instance, one of the breweries I work with pretty often is Hop Life Brewing, and they're local here in Port St. Lucie where I live, and they just got their restaurant license. So they serve all kinds of stuff. They have their food trucks outside, obviously, which a lot of breweries do everywhere because that's a way to circumvent the system a little bit. But they're actually able to now provide food on their own accord. Sailfish Brewing, another local brewery here on the Treasure Coast, they have a whole pizza palace inside of their brewery, and so there are. But I think all of that became part of it because for a while they weren't able to serve booze or beers or any kind of alcohol without being able to serve food. So that was a way that Florida was trying to help the brewery stay in business, and now it's you can't give something and then take it away. So it's
I was gonna say hopefully that'll stay, because that was so weird. All these little niche rules that they had.
Yeah,
like you go to a brewery and it's like, hey, I'd like to order some food, and you have to go order food from another restaurant and then bring it in, and
right.
They have some of I lived in Arizona for 6 years, and some of the bars are like that, where you would have to bring food in, which is weird to me because I'd never heard that. As far as anywhere that I'd gone to in New York, whether it's a city or north or south of the city, that wasn't a thing. I mean, they had food or they didn't have food. You didn't like show up with a pizza, when you got like Domino's guy at the door, like, wait, what? Are you at the right place? And people are like, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go, swing by the drive-thru or something and walk by the drive-thru.
Yeah, the thing that happened here was I actually have a lot of friends in the beer industry and that own breweries, and the problem they had was if they could always serve food because there's a lot of restaurant breweries out there, but it's a specific type of license and it costs more. It's actually additional license that they had to get. So most of them just didn't want to deal with it. Now, when COVID hit, they closed all the bars and they were considered bars. So a way to get around that for them was to get their restaurant license. And of course they were backlogged a little bit, but I've got a buddy of mine right down the street here who has a brewery, and literally he got his restaurant license. He put a hot dog roller behind the bar, and now he could open. And that was the thing that was disappointing to me was, to see that literally there was nothing There's no difference. I mean, the guy put a hot dog roller in, but now he can open his doors.
Hop Life Brewing, the Hop Life Brewing that I was telling you about, they got their license and they made pretzels.
Yeah.
They got a little
Awesome.
oven and they warmed up pretzels and they gave you some beer cheese with it. And that's life, man. And they still have their food trucks, so they have a variety of things, but
And that's
that
what
was what it took to open the doors.
They kept their food trucks there and they let you get their regular stuff, but they put a couple of hot dogs on the hot dog roller.
Right.
And good for them to be able to find a way to open, because honestly, a lot of these rules just didn't make sense. I mean, both one business and not another for whatever reason. And, you know, these breweries, the tap rooms are their lifeblood. Like the guy down the street I'm talking about has no distribution at all.
Right.
The only business is his tap room. So he has to, if he's not open, he's out of business.
Well, Jeremy, I do have a question for you because listening to your podcast with Paul, when you said that you were pretty tight with the Holly Hill kind of Chamber of Commerce or whoever's in charge of.
Yeah, my wife was the president, so I'm pretty.
That's right. Easy peasy. So theoretically, I guess, if you happen to open a bar next door to your distillery and called it Copper Bottom Bar, and you served your liquors and everybody else's, and you actually had a bar right next door with your liquor license and everything, you would be able to just, would that work in some kind of way?
So here's why we don't do that. Could it happen? Absolutely. The problem is there's no advantage to it. The advantage that the breweries have is they make their beer on site for whatever it costs them, you know, pennies on the dollar, and they can pump it through the wall and serve it without a middleman. So if I open a bar next door, I have to make my product, sell it to a distributor, and then buy it back. And there's no benefit at that point. At that point, I should have just opened a bar.
So is that
a lot cheaper?
Does that become the problem? Is it a distribution issue, or distribution legislation issue?
Yes.
The difference between the liquors and then the beer and wines.
Well, here's what it is distributors, and I hate to say this on a live podcast, but it's absolutely the truth. The problem is right. But in Florida, the issue is the distributors have a very large and powerful lobby. And if you think about it, they're the middleman, right? They're not the ones who are putting out all the capital up front to produce a brand, to produce a new product, have a distillery, all this. They're also not the ones on the other end, on the retail side, that have to build a building and have a brick and mortar and hire all these employees. They literally pick it up and drop it off. So they're in reality, that's the business to be in, because they're the ones making all the money. And because they're making all the money, they have the biggest lobby. And that's why we can only sell 6 bottles a year. If I sell a bottle here in house, that means that they didn't get a piece of it. If I sell a drink here in house, that means it didn't go to a bar where they got their cut. And that's the issue. So the real issue is anytime I talk to legislators and people in the state house and all that, everybody that I talk to is like, yeah, of course that makes sense. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, everybody else can do it. Why can't you? And all of a sudden, after some campaigns get financed and some pockets get lined, by the time the votes come around, it never really goes through. So
it's like piracy to me.
No, you know what? I hate to say it, but it's the truth. It's crazy the way this, it's not the way government's supposed to work. But everybody I've ever talked to about it's like, yeah, that makes no sense until the vote comes around, and all of a sudden it makes sense again.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, it's not necessarily right to Brad's point. It's not necessarily a federal or, again, whether I guess the laws or the state laws could be changed, but it still seems, as you mentioned, wineries and breweries can sell right out the door. But I don't know, is there still something to it where spirits are always still seen as like this next?
No, you know what it is? It's the breweries and the wineries, especially on the small scale, have been around a lot longer. So they have more members, more lobbying power, and they've been around. Craft distilling as an industry has not been around that long.
Right.
And we just don't have the bandwidth and the lobbying power yet to change any of this stuff. The other thing that happened, back kind of in the 90s, and well, not even in the 90s, and back a little bit earlier, you had some of the bigger breweries that were actually helping to push some of these laws to allow craft distilleries to do what they're doing. An example around here is, Busch Gardens and SeaWorld. I don't know if you remember, they had the hospitality houses there where you could walk up and get a free sample of their beer. Well, right? Yeah.
That where you had the multiple hats?
Yes. So they used to do that. But in order for them to do that, they actually had to pass some laws in Florida to allow them to do that.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
those same laws are also what helped the craft breweries get off the ground as well. So being able to serve in those tap room type situations is what helped the craft distillers. And that was only because the big breweries were helping to push it. Now they're also the ones trying to fight against it because now they're seeing they're taking a lot of market share. But and they also don't own SeaWorld and Busch Gardens anymore. That's the other reason.
That's funny. That's the irony is back, right? Is the right in that what you just said there was here's one's pushing it, and then it's kind of you want to say didn't think about it.
It backfired a little bit.
Right. Because they probably didn't see the craft beer industry kind of growing. And I think I was talking to somebody about that was they're now, I think, again, just name dropping, but the story that I had heard was a company, a brewery, and I know Kirk and Brad, you maybe correct me, is due south here in Broward County. And the story was they got approached by a big brewery to sell, and they said no. And but they're still enough known and still staying in business to kind of may not be U.S. nationally, but yeah, it's and then on top of that was those same big guys were also forcing labels on beers and trying to play the let's put all the calories and all the ingredients on your products, because again, a lot of the craft beers are probably very high in a lot of calories and so forth and whatnot. And here
things love calories.
No,
Come to me.
You're right about that. It's they are a lot higher, but you're also talking about a giant expense too. So now you have to have all those beers sent out to be analyzed, which costs more. You have to have new labels printed up, which in a small business like this, those are big expenses. So you're right. It squeezes them because you'll see those numbers now. But worse than that is all the upfront cost of doing that as well. I mean, legislation like that, they put is, oh yeah, we're trying to help out. But honestly, they're just trying to squeeze out competition. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way we roll around here, right?
Right.
It keeps you creative, though. I mean, if you're looking for a silver lining, I'll give it to you. It keeps you creative. It keeps you thinking about how to, I hate to say circumvent the system, but maybe reinvent the system, and put a different spin or a different thought in people's head about how you do business. It keeps it growing. I mean, that's kind of the American dream. It sucks when you're the one having to put in that effort, but what comes after that, if it's successful, that's the bee's knees.
Yeah. Agreed. There's a high bar, and I agree, Brad. It's like you got to figure out how to circumvent that high bar to make the money.
Yeah, it's to your point, Kirk, to make money. It's what we do it because we love it, but you got to pay bills in the same thing, and that's music as well. We play music because we love it, but we also have to pay bills. So if we're playing songs that we don't necessarily doesn't speak to our soul, but it gets the room going, and they want to have us back to perform.
Yeah.
Hey man, we got to do what we got to do. It's not
swallow the pride and sell to your market. It really is, especially. Many industries are so much the same that everything almost becomes generic, right? How many bar bands are there, and what are you doing that sets yourself aside? Number one, suck up the pride, play Living on a Prayer and whatever else is going to get the house moving. And it's true, right? It's true. And I mean, I don't mind the song. I grew up, not too far from where Bon Jovi's from, but no, but you have to swallow the pride. You have to decide, before you get on that stage, are you in this band, or or if you're, a brewery, are you in this for yourself, or are you, in this to make some money and make people happy and give people a reason to want to see you? I mean, look, as a session drummer, for me, it is a hustle. This year, after my son was born, I kind of went a pretty large gap of not recording for a while. I just didn't have the situation, waiting for the house to be built and get my studio up and running. And so the hustle is there. And how do you sell yourself if you're a craft brewery, or if you're a band, or come back to those things, but just in general, how do you sell yourself and your product to show that you're different or better than everyone else, when everybody is, this much of a difference exists there? How do you make it seem like it's this? And that's that marketing. I think the biggest thing for huge in wine and beer is the label, right? And that's one of the biggest expenses. My dad owned a bakery for 20 years, and he spent his entire career until he retired in the food business. And the biggest expenses of things like, like a Starbucks or even just a bakery serving coffee is the cup, right? How do you make people want that cup or whatever it is? And dude, my wife loves wine, but she goes, down the wine aisle and she just grabs bottles that look cool. And like, okay, maybe this tastes good, maybe it doesn't. And, how many different craft beers are there? And okay, how many hoppy beers are there? If you want a hoppy beer, there's a billion of them, like IPA and double stouts. And like, okay, well, what's selling you on it? A lot of times it's a label that at least gets someone to try it. And if you're a band, nobody's going to go see a band, wearing a bunch of white shirts. But if you're wearing some crazy shit, that's it, man. That's the sale for it. And that's what makes our industry, or industries in this country so cutthroat. There are always pros and cons. Everything's a double-edged sword, but in the liquor business, right, you've got to do something that gets those bottles in their hands. And sometimes, the distributors are greasing palms, but what do you do to get that out the door?
I don't know. Dave, you're right about, and I hate to shamefully admit this, was the couple I think it was a couple weeks ago, was I walked into the ABC to buy something, and no, sorry, Jeremy, no offense. Bacardi had a little thing set up there right by the door. They're giving their taste testing of their coquito, and I'm getting, was a fairly attractive person that was there.
Always.
I ran back home, went and put the shirt on. I'm like, I'm getting a shirt. I'm getting a picture with the Bacardi girl, I bought a bottle, and it was actually pretty good. So
shame, Paul. Shame,
yes,
Paul.
Yeah, shame. Which, by the way, segue to, there is a Game of Thrones thing coming out in I saw 2022, I guess. So they're already pushing that. So, but anyway, yeah. But you're right. It's crazy because it's a lot of hard, and any product, right? It's how do you get people to notice you? And somebody was just talking online about how these YouTube videos, social media, where like kids are really younger, that are performing, playing, and they're getting a lot of recognition. Is it because of their age? Is it because of cute, or is it niche, or whatever? And then again, yeah, there's a lot of folks that are nobody will ever have heard about. You could say, y'all could probably say, this guy, who do you think the best drummer, guitar player, or whatever is? And there's somebody else that's 10 times better than that person that you've never heard about. It's just because of, so yeah, it's hard to get that product.
If you ever watch the YouTube video, there is a YouTube video out there. I saw it probably about a month ago. It was Rage Against the Machine playing at a college before they ever signed, like they probably signed a deal, but it was before they were ever, recorded that album. And it was pretty cool. I mean, it was amazing to see. And you just see people, at a college university, they're like throwing their souls out, and people are just walking by like, oh, I'm going to my next class. So if you ever see it, just go Google it. It's a great little video of Rage Against the Machine before they were, made it big.
They
To your point, it's very cool to see that even the bigger bands, people, if they're not known, people just walk by and not think anything of it.
Well, it's funny,
He-
man. You touch on a good point, because and this goes for liquors or the spirits industry as well as music. It's all in the package. If you put something together and you put a pretty bow on it and make it palatable for people to want and say, I want to have this, and available for them to have, it's more desirable. But her name escapes me now. She's an amazing violinist, and she's world renowned, award winning, any other adjective you want me to throw at you. But she went into New York subway and was playing one of the most difficult pieces for a violinist to play. And some people would stop and listen and throw a little money in her bucket, but the majority of people just kept on going by. So it really is, to your point, Kirk, with Rage Against the Machine, it's really how you're being presented. If you're playing at the local bar and there's no stage, there's no lighting, you're just playing in the corner, like a lot of us do as solo entertainers. It's different experience than if you are on a festival stage, lighting, smoke, and just other energy, getting people in the mood. Like I've done gigs where I've played a festival gig in the afternoon to 1,300 people that were right up at the stage, and was like the time of my life. And then immediately got off stage, packed the van, and went to a gig at a local bar down the street and played to 10 people who didn't give a fuck. They just wanted to watch me, or they just wanted to watch the football game that happened to be on, and it's like, oh my God, like what a mind fuck.
Usually I've been on the second one.
Yeah.
So I actually have a great example of that. When we launched our aged rum 2 years ago, it was in a skinny cylindrical bottle. It was actually the same bottle as our silver rum. We just called it a gold rum because we weren't sure exactly how we were going to do it just yet. And with the way the labels and the government has to approve all the labels, I just kind of wanted a generic label. We did that for about a year or so, and it was going pretty well. But about a year later, we released the beer barrel rum that you have in front of you, Paul, there, and everybody really loved that bottle and the label. So I said, you know what, let's do a refresh on our gold rum. We did two things. We put it in that bottle, and we changed the name from a gold rum to a single barrel rum, which is what it always was. Same juice, different bottle. We increased the price. We doubled our sales in it.
It's amazing.
Bottle, label, name change, increased the price, doubled our sales. And that's same
awesome.
same juice on the inside.
Yeah,
And actually,
that's solid advice, man. Even to like other bands that are watching, or like it's never too late to rebrand what you do. If you've been doing the same thing and it's not working, or you're not where you want to be, like don't think that you're selling out. Like it's something that I had to like learn over the years. Is like you're not selling out if you rebrand and you try something different. Like clearly what you were doing wasn't working as well as it could have. So
and that was the thing. It was working.
And you're back in business,
Yeah. And it was working even. We were selling the product and everybody liked it. But I got so much positive feedback from that specific bottle. I said, you know what, why don't we use it for more things? We don't need to use it just for this one. And we decided to relabel and rebrand. And I mean, it's crazy. And actually, to your point about seeing musicians, I lived in Atlanta for a while. Gosh, this was years ago now, but I used to go to a little bar called Dixie Tavern in Marietta, Georgia. And Zach Brown Band, before he got real big, on a Friday night, we would go there any day of the week, and it was no cover. You'd go in there, whatever. On a Friday night, he would come in when nobody knew who he was. They'd charge a $5 cover, and people would be pissed because I'm just here to drink and have fun. I don't even know who this jackass is. But he was amazing, and nobody even knew it at the time, right? And it's one of those deals where, now people are paying $60, $70, $80, $300 to go watch him in an arena. And, you could have seen him for $5 if you weren't bitching about it at Dixie Tavern in Marietta, Georgia. It's crazy.
It's the thing. I mean, you have to accept it as an artist. And in any way, like if you're trying to make it in the music scene, like that's cutting your teeth, that's paying your dues. You got to go and play those rooms to people, even if it's a packed room, like they don't know who you are, man. It's kind of a reality check. But and if it stops you in your tracks and that's not what you want to do, it's probably not the business for you. But if it makes you want to, if it fuels a fire and you go, I want these people to pay attention to me, and you pull a Freddie Mercury or you pull a Prince and you get their attention in a way that is striking, there you go. It separates the people that are weekend warriors and the people that are going to be fruitful in the industry, or be the next big star, unless of course you get on the television shows and and then you become famous through a game show.
But even there, they're selling an image, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I remember I was reading an article recently right after Eddie Van Halen had passed away. And I can't remember names, but the guys who had discovered Van Halen. So here's a big thing, just to kind of backpedal a little bit. Not only does packaging sell, obviously good stuff and what have you, and packaging sells mediocrity. And I remember reading about the initial take on Van Halen, watching Eddie, and Eddie is what sold that band. And then the comments on David Lee Roth, like, I can't work with this guy. Like they're just talking about how bad he was in the studio and this. And then they kind of settled into like, well, there's such a uniqueness. And then they realized how great that was, this showmanship. And that is a big piece of what sold them, to musicians and music lovers who are piqued by quality of the music. You hear Eddie and you're like, oh my God, like this is phenomenal. To the average person, they don't pay attention to the Eruption solo. They listen to Dave's and all all the different pop dooba when he did his own stuff and all that. I mean, still sold records doing that and jumping around and kicking in the air and assless chaps and whatever it is. That's the packaging is what really does sell it.
Hey, Jeremy, Bike Week's coming up, right?
I mean, if they allow.
Sorry, Dave, to interrupt you there. We're talking about assless chaps here in Bike Week in Daytona Beach. So,
all right.
Yeah, I was wondering where that was going.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, and not the ones you want to see either.
But yeah, no, there's the band that goes through that, right, Dave, is Van Halen's up there, and there's everything you think goes into it, but there's other nuances about it that draws. We saw David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar do their co-tour in 04-05, and we were, I think, third row in the amphitheater here in West Palm, and my wife's like, man, Dave is not, again, not what he was when everyone remembers what he was, doing the same old shtick. And it's like, okay, maybe we are sitting a little too close to see this, but you're right.
It ages. I mean, obviously, there is, for some people, there is an expiration date, and for other people, like, I mean, they're all in their, hitting 70 now, right? What is it? Sammy's like 70.
Oh,
I remember
Sammy is ageless because he's smoking that stuff out there, and I know, right?
Apparently,
he sold
his switch to tequila, and
he's rum now, right? He's switched it to rum now.
Well, he is, but maybe that's what's doing it. I don't know, but either way, but just him as a person, right? Yes, there's definitely they're, dude, I mean, if we're talking about ageless, not that he doesn't, Keith Richards doesn't look young, but he looks like a zombie, but what the fuck is he drinking and past that? But no, I just think it's so important to recognize that I mean, when it comes down to it, branding and the image and the package, it sells it. It absolutely does. You can rebottle the same thing and present it in a different manner, and boom, there it goes. I mean, countless companies have done that, what they sell and different names and shit, or just make it seem like it's exclusive, right? Jacking the price up, people walking in, I'm like, ooh, this one's $3 more, but price usually in their minds, dictates quality. That's how Beats by Dre or Nike, which are poorly made products, get sold so much because the branding and the price point, versus, look, I'm an Apple guy. I get it. I know that Apple is marked up on their prices. For me, what I like is the fact that their products last longer, but they are, marked on, somewhat of an elitist kind of mindset. And that's how a lot of products sell to people. Look, we're talking drums, and I don't know if I'm going to offend anybody. I don't care about that. DW is not a bad company. It's not an amazing company. DW makes the same maple drums that, other people, make maple shells, but they were very smart with their marketing. They separated themselves from PDP as being, a separate thing, even though it's not. It's still, made by the same company. Dude, it's Acura and Honda, or Lexus and Toyota, and marketing sells it. I mean, if you look at, I'm a guy who's driven Hondas forever. My whole family's driven Hondas, and getting other things is fine. I let my wife drive whatever she wants. I just like Hondas. And if you look at, a Pilot versus, I think it's the MDX, it's the same body with different lights and a few different features. Slap that package on, you pop up that hood, it's the same engine and whatever it is. So DW, does it, and they were smart with their marketing Guitar Center. And companies will always do that, but it's what makes or breaks. So you get on the American Idols and whatever, those are auto-tune, and there are plenty of things that make bad singers sound good. Nobody sings, in a mall with an acoustic guitar anymore without having some sort of effects run, so you can get your Britney Spears and whoever else. I guess we're sounding old now because we're saying Britney Spears instead of someone who's actually relevant.
Oh, wait. Are you saying that Tiffany? Are you saying Tiffany? Wait, you saying
I
Tiffany's
totally
not coming back to the
Tiffany
mall?
reference.
I would
totally
throw out though.
was doing a Tiffany reference.
I would throw out those, like, talent's talent. So if you're singing without auto tune, or if you're throwing with it auto tune, you can kind of tell it. But
everything is. But if you've got the budget coming in, right? I mean, you think of a lot of these artists.
Yep.
They're
Very manufactured.
So I'll tell you that Justin Timberlake is phenomenally talented. But you take a lot of the people that are kind of, he's been doing it for, a while longer now. But if you take a lot of people and kind of put them in that position, which you do, there's so much that's pushed into that they're not getting on a stage without that, right? They're no more Milli Vanilli situations. Like they've got those, those covered up. My God, we're sounding old. Everything I say, I just need to stop talking. Milli Vanilli.
What are you talking about? What's that? What?
God.
Think about a mall.
But you don't get those. Yeah, people are even like, "What's a mall?" Right? The malls.
Can you explain that to me? I'm not sure
what.
Amazon.
I saw Tiffany playing on Amazon.
Yeah, right.
At
the
Walmart.
Amazon distribution center. But
Walmart. Well, she probably is playing a Walmart parking lot now.
Probably is now, right? I don't know, man. They constantly do those 80s.
She's not coming on. She's not coming on the podcast now after that comment.
No, you.
You're done.
Gone forever.
Still got my fingers crossed. They'll just show up on Bourbon and Bases. So I don't know.
So David, I have to admit that I'm the abomination of drummers here on this Zoom chat podcast tonight. With the exception of Jeremy, which is fine. But and Kirk.
Wait, Brad, hold pause. So can we talk Jeremy into? Can we put a drum kit in the over at Copper Bottom and just set it up in the corner and then leave it, and then
Dude, I love that. I listen. That's like the one instrument I've always wanted to learn to play. So when like tonight, I'm making vodka tonight, so I'm gonna be here till probably 3 a.m. So I will be if I had a drum kit in the corner, I would just be beating on this thing by myself with nobody can hear me.
We could have done this podcast. We could have done this podcast up at the distillery, and we could have made an all road trip.
There you go.
Just jammed out and made rum. Then there's a story that makes itself, right?
I was gonna say, Paul, that drum kit that keeps going back between you and I think that's the drum kit that needs to go over there.
Making dreams happen.
That's right. Yes, it's just like make a wish.
So, David, I have a question to pose to you. So, what I do is I do a one-man band show. I'd like to say that it's similar to some of the better one-man band shows, but it's not because it's not as good.
He's being really modest.
So, like, I don't do the standard like blues thing. Like, I do mostly pop tunes, and I push my reach in terms of what I can do with my feet on the drums. So like I went from doing a cajon and some tambourine strapped to my foot to now I have a pretty substantial electronic kit that I play with. So it's 5 pieces. I play kick drum, snare, floor tom, crash cymbal. I also
are these multiple pedals, or what are you?
Multiple pedals, all mechanical, no tracks or anything like that. I have a ride cymbal tapped into my kick drum. So anytime I hit the kick, there's a ride cymbal, and I have a ride cymbal trigger on my guitar that I play with my finger while I'm strumming. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And I'm still like stretching to do more, but I'm not a drummer by trade. It was more of a boredom thing. And I was like, okay, I need to do, I played on cruise ships for many years as just a solo guitarist, singer. And I got off there and I was like, I can never just play guitar again. I'll jump off a bridge. And so I started incorporating other things. And so what I pose to you as a teacher is there a way to teach somebody like me to play better drums or learn different patterns with my feet in that kind of configuration? Like,
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rhythm, right? I mean, like that's what it comes down to. Playing with your hands and doing different stuff. It's coordination. But we all, pissed off our teachers by tapping on our desks with pencils or our hands, or we play on our steering wheel, right? I mean, I don't care who you are. If a Rush song comes on, you get what I'm going at. I don't want to date myself more and more.
Every air time on earth.
Yeah.
There's no
Phil
air
Collins
drums
in
the air and I write. No, but it's rhythm, and I mean, like, it's just teaching yourself how to coordinate with that. At first it's kind of like kick and snare, but right foot left, do whatever. Or like kind of if you ever played hand drums or even like programs where you're like tapping it on your phone or whatever. It's just you're using your fingers. There's no feet involved, so it's basically training your feet to do that. And then just putting together the rhythms. It becomes is your right foot going to dominantly be going back and forth between the kick and the snare sound while your left foot plays a hi-hat or whatever? But it's just putting together. I don't think there's a methodology necessarily to teach it versus just conceptual understanding. Now, I'll also say that I've never taught anybody or tried to teach someone that, so maybe I'm just bullshitting and maybe there is a way. I don't know. But
it sounds
if you edit that part out, nobody ever knows. Yeah. I mean, look, dude, I'm a younger brother. I made my life, on bullshitting and getting out of trouble. So I'm good at it. No, but there's, I mean, honestly, it's rhythm. I feel like anything you create, if you think about modern pop and modern R&B and modern hip hop, which is very different from 10, 20, 30 years ago in all of those genres. You have this digital ability. A perfect example is, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. Is it Billie Eilish? Eilish, whatever.
Eyelash.
So her, fuck. I know it's not eyelash, but who doesn't want to?
That's funny.
Brother was like is like the genius behind that. He's got the same or one of the same interfaces that I've got, Universal Audio Apollo XAP, and he's got, you know, actually one of these as well, some others, and he, you know, play the hip pads, right, and not the keys and whatever, and he's creating, you know, the sounds that she's doing, and then obviously it gets sent out, you know, because he's not getting mixed in his bedroom that's not treated, but it gets sent out to get mixed and done whatever. But, you know, you're just creating what's aesthetically pleasing to the ear. And there doesn't have to be the rhyme or reason that there was. And you get people are angry about it. And by the way, the reason I brought her up, I was looking at like a guitar forum on Facebook yesterday, just kind of flip it through. And somebody was complaining about why didn't, oh shoot. Who is the guitarist for Chicken Foot? Not Steve Vai. With Sammy Hagar on tie back. Yes, thank you, Joe Satriani. Why do you get a Grammy and just no talent hack? I'm like, well, she does have talent. She has a good voice, and her brother produces, but none of that matters, right? I mean, it's like it's the package, and it's, you know, Steve Vai is a great guitarist, and he does have stuff. People are like, well, he was an accompanist. I'm like, whatever, man. Like, people play their role, and what do you want out of that? But as far as the sound goes and the way that music is created now, there's none of that specific, you know, old school. I mean, now I sound really old because it's way before my time, but Tin Pan Alley type writing, where it's formulaic. Everything is just, what can you create that sounds good? And you're using your feet in a way of just creating rhythm. So that's not a bullshit answer. That's pretty, you know, honest, that there's no rhyme or reason to that. It's whatever sounds cool, because you're creating, especially if you're going to play, you know, pop music, you're creating the same type of shit that they were just fucking around with, and like, hey, this sounds kind of cool. Okay. And if you listen to a lot of it, and it irks me as a drummer, where I love hip hop and I grew up in New York. So I grew up in 80s and 90s hip hop, you know, just for me, I don't care, you know, no disrespect to the South or the West Coast or wherever, but New York soul totally comes from New York. And they were programming drum machines and playing beats that were specifically very in time. And when you rap in time. And modern hip hop, it irks me where it's intentionally out of time, and there's kind of flailing against, you know, downbeats, and they do it on purpose, and it drives me nuts. And I think that's just the reason why I can't get into it, because the timing's off. But who cares, man? Because dude, I need a hand just coming into camera, just
right.
Right.
Where is that hand at?
Movie magic,
dude. Yeah, yeah.
But no,
great way to end my rant.
No, David, seriously. Well,
Sorry.
because as an entertainer, what I do, you know, like my way of setting myself apart from our other local entertainers, because I play the same circuit as everybody else. I play the same circuit as many solo artists that play guitar, but my sound is tremendously more gigantic because of the way that I implement what I do. And the biggest thing is the drums, like, because it's the only thing that I can do that I can expand on, because
can I totally give you away an easy secret to make your sound even bigger?
Yes, please.
So because that in its own right is going beyond what, like, Bright Boss created that little wood block that you can step on. It's almost kind of like a bass drum that sounds like that. But yeah, write this down, man. Seriously, synth pads. Synth pads are totally the way to thicken up sound. People don't realize how much it's used in music. It's used in pop. It's used in hip. I mean, very subtle. It's used in worship music. I mean, like everything. As far as live music and recorded music now, it adds just a depth. Just, you know, whatever pad you've got underneath there, or a buzzing or something, it adds so much. That, I mean, you're dead on, man. Like you're selling yourself in a different way by saying, okay, I'm doing the same things as people, and just adding, you know, an extra little bit of character, and it increases the impact, and that's it, man. It's a plain black label on a wine bottle versus what's the one that she grabs? It's like old Chicago mob bosses on different bottles and stuff. And it's like,
nine crimes,
something like that. And like, that shit looks cool. Like, I'll drink that. And it's a mediocre wine. It's not bad. It's not amazing, but like, it looks cool. And it's like, what, $15 or whatever it is. And it's like, okay. And like, I'm not gonna. So maybe way back, if Zach Brown was actually giving out, you know, a little piece of fried chicken or something at his shows, they'd be like, I'll pay $5 for a dude who's going to play music and give out fried
Yeah,
chicken.
Come on.
I think that's how he makes money, though. He has like his food thing that he does before the concerts.
Well, now he does, but I'm sure before at the bar, nobody was like, who the fuck is this guy trying to sell me chicken at a bar? I'm not one of
He's always
them.
selling.
You know what? I've decided what I'm gonna do, Paul. I'm gonna bring a jar of mixed nuts, and I'm gonna give away nuts
You're nuts.
and be like, come to my show and put my nuts in your mouth.
Oh, I thought we were going to sell chicken. I thought we were.
I'm gonna tell you a quick funny story about not terribly bad, but and then I do have to take off. But my good friend Tom, we were playing a gig, and this is back in my touring days, and we were playing like a local club, probably like 400 or 500 people, nothing major. And he's waiting online to get in, so I was out waiting him, saying, "Yeah, dude, you know, put the wristband on. He's one of my guests," and you know they're doing the pat down and searching him. And the guy grabs his pocket. He's like, "What's this?" And only Tom. And Tom pulls it out, and it's literally a bag of like almonds and peanuts. He's like, "This is my nutsack. If you're gonna grab my nutsack, are we going out to dinner?" And that's. And you want to watch a bouncer blush? Like, holy shit, dude! Like this, like, big dude, and just you grab my nutsack. And the jokes are endless on that, and you can run with it and have fun with that. But maybe that's what it takes, you know, offering people a chance to taste your nuts, and people are gonna come see you. Like, who, you know, check my band out. Our nuts are always out. Whatever it is, I don't know.
So, but well, honestly, I asked you, David, because I do genuinely want to expand my rhythm abilities. And the biggest difficulty for me was separating playing guitar and then whatever my feet were doing. And I've gotten to that point now where it's completely ambidextrous. Like my feet do what they do, and I don't think about it. So to me, it's like, okay, now it's time to challenge. But if I did go to a drum teacher locally or wherever and said, "Hey, this is what I need. I'm a special case." If as a educator, you know, as an educator, you know, is that something that a teacher would take on to try to?
I mean, I don't see why not. I feel like it's as adventurous as they'd want to be. I've been teaching now for
maybe this is something. This is a great, you know, collab with you know, trying to do some video stuff here with Brad and you, right? You and Brad and
you get some weird foot fetish people coming on too, though. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking.
Whatever.
Were you just waiting for it? It's like
sells.
all feet. Like,
no, I was not.
Toenails for like a month. Get some corns.
That is not where I was going. That is not where I was going.
No, but in all seriousness, I don't see why a teacher wouldn't. So I've been teaching for 20 years. I do stuff virtually. That was part of, you know, what we had talked about. I've got a 3-camera switcher over there, and I'm just on my laptop right now. But and one of my students, actually, I have 2 students from the Philippines in the family, a mom and a son. And the mom, during COVID, was having issues with her hand and the fear of, you know, going to the hospital at that point. This is back in like March, April, May, and so you know, we did a few lessons with just feet and working on, you know, foot exercises, and that's no different. We were doing paradiddles, you know, the same type of stuff you would do with your hands. I don't see why not. I mean, I feel like it's whatever a teacher is willing to explore and applying the same concepts or not, right, or being outside the box. I can't say that I've done a developmental, you know, course type thing for that, but I don't see why any serious instructor couldn't, because, you know, the concepts applying or thinking outside the box. And that's one thing that I was pushed. You know, I want my kids, you know, and my, I say kids because I prefer adults are so stuck in their ways unless they're willing to open their minds, but kids are willing to do, you know, whatever, because you're kind of, you know, shaping their entire outlook because it's so new. And they're not stuck in their ways. And I have them do very unconventional things at early ages. I've got this particular student, the mom, well, the son, I've got, he's only been drumming for 2 years, and I've got him working on stuff that, you know, half my adult students could even comprehend. So why not break outside the mold and do that? I mean, I definitely see it as a possibility. Maybe I'm going to write that on my like future note sheet, like foot drumming, you know, like hand guitaring. I don't know.
You ever come out with that lesson plan, you need to shoot me an
We need
email.
to delete this episode
Yes.
so that I can claim 100%. I'm the distributor.
There you go.
Well, that's a good way to tie it all in. Nice.
I'm gonna get your email from Paul. I'll send you a video of what I do, and maybe
Yeah, no, I'd love to check
on
that
it.
out.
Yeah.
And see, that'll be cool.
Next year's year-end wrap-up. Oh man, it's gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be-
Drunk, assless chaps, foot drumming.
100%. I love it. I'm in. Nobody wants to see this ass, but
I'm there for
I'm
the
in.
foot drumming, but that's about it.
I told you, there's some people who show up with that foot fetish.
So yeah,
I want to see
Dave.
that too. You got to send that video to me. I want to. You've intrigued me with your foot thing.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
send it to you as well
I want to see that.
for sure.
I think I took Brad the other night. I probably took one of those awkward videos where I was like the last guest at the Blue. We're shooting a video of the It's definitely a
Preface this, by the way, the banner, like I was playing a gig, and it was a pretty good gig, and but it was late for a Sunday night, and for the first 2 sets it was pretty good, and then I finished my last set and everyone left. It was no one. There was a couple that had come to see me particularly, and they were the only ones left at their table. They were ready to like ride it to the bitter end, and so the manager had come to me and said, "Hey, I have your check. We could call it a night if you want." I was like, "All right." And so I went back on the stage to like, I was gonna play like one more song to thank the couple that was still there, and I'm getting ready to play, and then Paul walks in.
Now you're stuck.
I was like, well, I at least have to play 2 songs now. And I played one song, the couple left, and then I played my last song just to Paul.
I was solo dancing.
Oh wow!
And the bartender, who's beautiful, by the way, worth it. I'd play songs to her all night long. My girlfriend completely approves. She would, she approves 100%. So.
Now, Brad, are you doing like acoustic or is it electronic?
It's so my one-man band show is I play my Telecaster. I use the brand new Boss octave pedal, which is out of sight. It's on another planet. It has a massive feature that I had actually. I'm not taking credit for this, but I did write an email to Boss or 2 asking for this particular feature, and it showed up in this culmination of the new octave pedal, and that is that it only octaves the lowest note that you play on your guitar. So you could strum a chord and it only brings the lowest note down an octave, which is totally, oh yeah, there I am. I'm working on getting that beard back together. But yeah, so I use that as my bass line. So I run bass lines with my thumb while I'm chording, and so, but my drum
That's
kit,
cool,
as you
man.
see in the
I'm
video,
impressed with your feet, man.
Electric.
in the video, it's all electric.
Nice.
I've been working on developing my acoustic presence. So I've been converting slowly a drum kit of acoustic drums to electric drums so that they look more aesthetically pleasing on stage. But a little bit of a challenge there. But the kick drum is now in full force. So
Nice.
It's awesome,
yeah,
man.
yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I don't mean to cut it short. I do have to dip out. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, dude, that's the drums I'm at. No, that is awesome. Totally not
Really great to meet you, David. Awesome,
Dude,
man.
it was a pleasure, dude. Thank you so much for having me. In all seriousness,
Yeah.
let's do this again next year for sure. Feed or not, that I'm okay with either way. But thanks, guys. Hey, happy New Year, and of course, Paul, thanks for having me on. And we will. I don't have a drink. I'm actually gonna go downstairs and get one right now. So just to let you know. But yeah, no, thank you guys. A little air toast.
Cheers, David.
Yeah.
Cheers,
man.
David.
Hey, Dave.
Take care, guys.
All right. Cheers. Happy New Year's.
you guys think I'm gonna get a lesson?
Oh yeah, he's.
Think I get some
Oh yeah,
lessons?
I think so.
nice.
No, he's great. I was creeping him. I hope he doesn't see this, but I was creeping him a little bit, and like he's real deal, man. I did not listen to his podcast episode, unfortunately, but I will go back and listen to it now. What a cool dude, Paul. One thing I have to say is that, and I've told you this before, so it's not a big secret, but I admire your ability to reach out to people cold calling these people that are really a force in the drum world and the rum world. Jeremy, perfect example. And
I'm
get
the only
them
one to pick up
involved.
the phone.
Oh, yeah, we keep calling him No Fear Paul.
Hey, it doesn't matter if you were the only one that picked up. You were a good one to pick up, it's true. I find myself stifled because I don't have that courage to reach outside of the box, and so I did today, and I channeled my inner Paul, and I sent an email out to. I'm not going to tell you who it is because I don't want to be embarrassed if he doesn't answer me.
Yeah.
But I did. I sent it out to somebody who's a pretty
Text
big
me.
name.
Text me offline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But Paul, I have you to thank for that too, because I've seen the people that you've had on, and I'm blown away, man. Your podcast is awesome. I'm very excited for 2021, and what Drums and Rums has to offer, and what we could do together, man. I'm stoked, and it's really great to meet you guys, Jeremy and Kirk, and David, of course. For hanging out tonight. I'm not trying to leave. I'm just, getting all this in case something happens.
It sounded like a really heartfelt goodbye there. I don't know. It seemed like you were leaving soon.
Heartfelt hellos, man. That's what I'm all about.
My favorite is like Paul starts this podcast. It's like, hey, I'm gonna do this. It's like, okay, let's do it. We're gonna have a good time. And then at the end of the year, oh, hey, Kirk. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna be interviewing the drummer for Dirty Vegas, which is like my personal favorite band of ever. And I'm like, how in the heck did you get the drummer for Dirty Vegas? Because that is just cool. I mean, that is so cool. So it's like, it is Fearless Paul. He goes Paul. In there and he picks them out. So next thing you know, you're gonna have Lars from Metallica coming in for 2021.
You could always invite me to that Zoom session, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I'll be like, Lars, so I play all my drums with my feet, man. What do you think about this?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So tell me about Saint Anger.
Yeah, exactly. How did that chair go?
If you ever get the guy from Def Leppard, I really would like to be on there because I'll be like, we share something in common, sir.
You have one arm?
Well, I have both arms, but I don't use them for drumming.
I know.
Too soon?
Well, yeah. There goes that guess too.
Well, I was about to say, now you lost that one.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? That should hook him in. If he has a sense of humor.
Is there like a blind CC for Zoom calls? Like we the back side of it. We don't want to watch. That's it.
Well, I think that was the thing, right, Jeremy? It was the invite went out to everybody, right? To everyone who's been on a guest on the show and so forth, and it's a very eclectic group of folks, and as Brad mentioned, and I appreciate Brad, and again, as much admiration to you to help me with certain things, as my podcast mentor and certain things, even from this evening, it's like, hey, how do I show a button up on my Facebook event so it shows people to go over here?
Hey man, seriously, it's my pleasure. It always has been. Since the day I met you, I was at your disposal, and it's been a passion or like a labor of love to even get my own podcast, Jams and Cocktails live podcast, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Nice shameless plug.
There you go. Not too shabby, right? And getting that out. I mean, that started in my office in my house, where like I would sit on my futon sofa with another guest, and it was one camera angle, and everything was awful, and we would just get terribly drunk. And then we moved it out of the office into the dining room where it got even worse. And and then my girlfriend was like, "Well, I can't have you in my dining room every single week because I would destroy it, and then I'd leave it there for days before I cleaned it up and then do it again." And so she was like, "If you clear out the garage, uh, you could do what you want out there." So I was like, "Okay." So we had a shed out in the backyard with nothing in it. And I put everything out there, and we are at 50 weeks this week. Tomorrow will be our 50th episode, 50 weeks live in a row.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Congrats.
I know, I'll
Congrats.
drink to that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And it's been what a ride, from pre-COVID to actual COVID to coming out of the depth of COVID, I suppose. We're still here, we're still producing live content, so very excited about that. Our 1 year is coming up in just a few weeks, so that's that secret guest that I mentioned earlier. We'll see if that pans out. Otherwise, it's still going to be fun. I just don't know
Lars?
it.
Yeah, right.
I don't think it's going to be Lars.
Go ahead and just say it's not Lars.
I'm going to say I'm old enough that this particular guest, a lot of people under a certain age probably has no idea even exists. But for me, I'll be fangirling the entire interview. Very excited if that works out.
Yes, that's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but Paul, you said earlier, like, a portion of doing what we do is to be a little selfish and get an audience with people that we admire. And I've had the privilege of doing that many times on my podcast, including my episode with Paul, which was very, very fun. And being a part of Paul's podcast as well, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
I still remember Paul, like, oh my gosh, like when COVID came in, it's like, oh, I gotta do Zoom. And then he's like, oh, and I have a drummer from India and I have a drummer from Brazil. It's like, how in the heck did you get two drummers international on a podcast right after COVID? It's like, that is so cool that you could pull that off. That is like,
See, that's kind of the brilliant thing about COVID. Not brilliant, but you know what I mean. It's
I know what you mean. Yeah.
It encouraged people to think outside the box, tip a little bit. And honestly, sometimes that's, business, podcast, anything you're in kind of needs that occasionally to, honestly, it shakes off some of the stragglers. I mean, the people, sometimes times get are really good and really easy. And, everybody can do it, but it's one of those things where when times start to get a little tough, that's where you got to pivot a little bit. You got to figure something new out and go a different direction. I was listening to something the other day and they were talking about real estate and how, in good times, anybody can sell real estate and everybody looks like a genius. When times start to get bad and the market turns, though, you kind of figure out who the real estate agents are and who the pretenders are.
Yeah. If you can sell in a down market, you're the real deal.
Right. And I think that's the same in this whole time period now. I mean, the people who are making it out are the people who are figuring out a way to make it happen. Because, I mean, we had the same fears everybody else did when everything started shutting down. Like, are we going to make it through this? And, so far we have, and everything's been good. But at the same time, I mean, reaching out, at the same time, Paul, if you were to do this, no COVID, would you even reached out to a drummer in India, in Brazil, in places like that? Would you have done it over Zoom? Would you have just done it all in person? I mean, you've done things that have been able to, expand the quality of your cast, which is nice. And part of that is because of COVID.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Jeremy. You're right. I would have not have
after the second episode, I would have not have had Alejandro and Vic, the two drummers from, two different places. Again, like I said, I have all these great ideas and I want to inject them immediately. And it's like, and again, here, let's try to do a podcast and let's try to do a Zoom session over multiple time zones.
Yeah.
Florida to India, right? Alejandro's in Germany. And so there's all those technical challenges there too. And but you're right, because I would have been probably sitting down over at our practice space or the drum shack with a lot more folks that were probably here locally first to kind of get started. So here at the fourth podcast, I'm talking to some guys that are on the other side of the world.
Yeah,
and you're right.
I mean, you're in one little place, just like us. I mean, we're in the same situation. We're in one little place. When all this started, we were able to find a retailer that we could sell online because we weren't sure if anybody was going to be allowed to even come to our place. Right. So it expanded our horizons because it kind of forced us into it. But there's a lot of people that aren't willing to do that. Some people are just so stuck in what they had in their head and what they really pictured everything to be that they die because of it.
What did they say about best laid plans?
Yeah. It's true. It's absolutely.
I can remember Paul just be like, "Oh my God, I'm not doing things at the shack. I got to do it through Zoom." And I'm like, Paul, just do it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be.
Yeah. So in full disclosure, right. So Kirk was my, early this year, right about the time we started the podcast, was the other benefactor of the shack. And I don't think, Kirk, you've really, to give you credit and honest, like, you really got your full share of, opportunity, right? Is to utilize the space and so forth. And well, I guess theoretically you have up to the end.
I threw the bass, threw the drums out there, and it was all good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's an interesting thing because it was not something that, looking back at this year, to get these things going. And again, third podcast, like here, with Eric, who was on with us earlier, was a third podcast in. I didn't think I was going to be doing a Zoom podcast. It was more of a in person. This is why I kept our little practice space that we, with our dad band, as I talked about, right? I wanted to keep it so I can go, do those things. Now again, as over the period, I'm sure the use have that. Yeah, my tongue is tied. I haven't had any dinner.
Well,
We've been drinking.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but yeah, those podcasts that I've had at the shack, it's been some issues with quality, and those are some of the things that I try to look to improve. For 2021, and that's again, I talk about again. I look at you guys that are on here with me on the Zoom chat. I appreciate your feedback. Again, you all, I bounce things off you. Consider you all very close friends. Where how do we all help each other? And again, feedback. I know Kirk. He, again, I've known him forever. I've known you forever, I guess is the best way to say it. And to help kind of give some feedback, Brad, again, from, maybe a little bit more technical. And again, we're sharing some of the similar podcast stuff. And, and again, Jeremy, again, we've got, we have some things to talk about next couple of days when I go head up that way. So, again, I went into this very much haphazardly and
just go at it and do it. And again, went from Kirk, right? We went from I had to take the microphone. It's my son, my youngest, from Christmas last year, I guess, right? Wanted a microphone, a Yeti microphone, I don't know, for whatever, and that's actually what we recorded with. The first podcast was the Yeti microphone hooked into the laptop and so forth. And again, we've kind of changed. We've grown from that, and so whatever, going forward with the quality and the content, and again, the content doesn't necessarily come from me. It comes from the guests. So again, I appreciate the to y'all, to give us the
So Paul, have you seen the clutch video that came out during Christmas?
The Clutch video. No.
Okay, so there's the band Clutch, right? They've been around for a long time. So there's this little guy. I think he's like 13 years old, and him and his dad's a drummer, he's a guitarist, and they've been playing a couple of Clutch songs. And so Clutch is like, I forget what their guy's the lead singer's name is, but he's like, this is pretty cool. And he's like, oh well, my son has come up with some original songs. And he's like, oh great, oh, what did I get myself into? And so he listened to him and he's like, actually these songs are pretty cool. So he actually did an original song of the kid. I mean, the kid's like 13 with the dad like us. And he did the vocals for it. You got to go check it out. It is the most coolest thing. He goes, dad bands have a bad name. He goes, there is nothing bad about dad bands. Dad bands are awesome.
That's right.
So give it to Clutch. They're throwing it back. Dad bands are in for 2021. That's all I got to say.
All right. Hashtag. Wait, Brad, he didn't say dad bod.
No, dad bands.
Well, I always say that I do my one-man band show to keep in shape as long as Round continues to be a shape.
Yeah, be a shape.
Yeah. No, that's pretty good. We'll definitely have to check that out because so Clutch. So
when
Clutch
he says dad bands, it's like dad bands in for 2021.
Well,
that's it.
Well, look, the ultimate. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the ultimate dad band video is out there on YouTube where Jared Cantrell from Alice in Chains. It was a spoofy of dad bands in the garage hanging out, and it's all I'll say is awesome.
No.
Oh, what? You're not seeing that?
We want Clutch dad band. That's the big, because he throws it out. There's no spoof to it. It's all good.
I look forward to checking that out. That sounds awesome.
All right. Yes. So I think again, a lot of folks, a couple of the folks that were there, as you mentioned, overseas there, probably won't be joining us because we're a few hours ahead of them. But a couple things there for 2021. Again, look forward to is, kind of dialing some of these things in. How do we make things better? How do we, improve in some of these things? Quality of audio. Again, the podcast is the main piece of this, as well as have the guys here tonight on this podcast. Joining in, rummers and drummers, and so definitely
Or both.
Yes, yeah, or Or both, right? Yeah, or
Paul
both.
got me off my Scotch train tonight. I just want you to know that
Oh,
I was happy in my
Interrupted it.
groove. and
yes, we throw him off on
oh my
Scotch
God, you got
Tuesdays.
top or bottom on here. I gotta get on some rum. I can't be the only abomination in drums and rums.
I mean,
Well,
it's
hey, well,
come on, man.
I gotta get down on your stuff, man. You know, I'm partial to Code. I love them. They're my lifeblood.
No, I get it.
I'm very stoked to check out your aged drum, your barrel aged drum, single barreled, right?
So we have actually 4 different ones. We have a single barrel that we aged for a minimum 2 years. We have a sherry finish, which is what I'm drinking. We aged that one for 2 years in a bourbon barrel, 1 year in a sherry cask.
Jeremy. I'm gonna stop you right there. That sherry finish, is that the joint? Is that the one?
I mean, that's what I'm drinking.
Is that at ABC?
No.
God damn it.
No, that the problem is that's it's a 1 barrel release, so we got 300 bottles out of it.
Where can I get it? Where can I get it tonight?
So hold on, Brad. So hold on.
You can order it tonight.
I can't order it tonight because I'm drunk enough to make some bad purchases
tonight.
Yeah.
And I just looked at the YouTube comments for this and noticed that my girlfriend has been tuning in. So I don't know what I'm getting into when I leave the lounge here and when I leave our lounge. It looks like she commented in when I was talking about my nuts. So we'll see. But
yeah.
I'm interested. If that's what you're drinking tonight, Jeremy, that's what I'm gonna go and get and see if I can get that.
They're also what Paul's drinking, the beer barrel, which we're out of right now. That one changes.
So am I.
Yeah, right. It's delicious because that one we work in collaboration with a lot of local breweries, and every release that we do is completely different than the one before.
I remember that you had mentioned that in your episode with Paul.
That one is a brown ale. I mean, the next one I've got coming out, I think, is going to be a coffee coconut porter. There's also going to be a German chocolate mead barrel that's coming out soon. I've got right now on the same website, I've got a port wine finish. So it's 2 years in a bourbon barrel, 1 year in an Italian port barrel. So we like to get our flavors from different barrel finishes, and the sherry finish, the port finish, and we have a wine finished as well, which is fantastic. I mean, they're all the wine or all the specialty ones that we do secondary aging on are just very, very unique. You won't find another rum like them. And it's just something different out there. And that's what we're trying to do is something a little different and not just the same run of the mill, sugary spiced rum. Yeah.
I feel like that was the theme of this whole episode tonight, Paul, is that separation. How are you going to set yourself apart and market yourself in a way that other people aren't doing? And I'm very excited to try your product, Jeremy. I really am. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Where are you located again? I know you're down south of me, but where's that?
I'm in Port St. Lucie.
Port St. Lucie.
So we're just south of Fort Pierce, just north of like Jupiter area.
Yep. Yeah, I'm on the same coast, but a little bit further north.
Yep.
So
the old stomping ground of Johnny Ringo, by the way.
That's right.
He's a native of Daytona Beach, and in fact, the Holly Hill area. So,
well,
it is Holly Hill, right? I'm not like messing that up.
No, Holly Hill. That's exactly right. Holly Hill is about 3.5 square miles, the entire city. It's surrounded by Daytona and Ormond Beach, and it's very small. If you blink, you'll miss it. But it's great to be in this little town. I mean, what I like to tell people, it's kind of like Lynchburg, Tennessee, right? Where Jack Daniels is. Mm-hmm. Nobody would ever know anything about Lynchburg, Tennessee, if it wasn't for Jack Daniels. That's what we're trying to do for Holly Hill. We're gonna put Holly Hill on the map here.
I love it, and I admire you for calling Paul straight out of the gate. You're like, no, actually, let me tell you.
Okay, so there's a reason for that. The reason for that is Holly Hill has been fantastic to us. I mean, we were looking initially to open in Daytona Beach, and we ran into some hurdles and some roadblocks. And we almost shelved the whole project. We almost said, you know what, if they don't want a distillery here, then we just won't do one. But then we found a piece of property in Holly Hill, and we went to the city and said, hey, look, is there going to be an issue trying to do something like this? And they said, how quick can you get open? By the way, this is a redevelopment area. There's some grant money available. We'll help you get it. I mean, Holly Hill has been, hands down. We've gone through 2 mayors now since we've been open. Both of them are huge fans of us. They come in all the time. The police chief rides through the parking lot 3 times a day to check on us just to make sure everything's cool. The whole city has really gotten behind us, and it's really been amazing. So every chance I get, I make sure people know we're in Holly Hill.
Paul, I'm a little disappointed then.
Oh,
Why don't we have copper at the door, Amazon picking up so I can have my bottle?
well, for Mr. Kirk and Mr. Brad, as I said, I will be heading up that way over the next couple days.
There we go. Yep, there we go. Pick me up. I want one of those. I want the single barrel. Pick me up one of those, please.
He's already in. I'm gonna put my order in today.
Two.
Yeah. So all right, Jeremy, that's on you now, because you need to pull the bottles aside, because I won't remember.
No worries.
So, but yeah, because here locally, as we said, here even down in South Florida, Kirk and Brad is Jeremy's the rum product and the vodka product as well is here in here in our Jupiter ABC. So,
and let me tell you, our silver rum, the unaged rum, is delicious. I would put it up against it was actually our very first product we released. And I would say, honestly, I would put it up against any other white rum out there. It's very drinkable by itself. It mixes really well. You try it next to some of the white rums, Bacardi, any of those guys, try it next to them. Right. And hands down, it's very, very, and honestly, I wouldn't say that about all of our products. Our silver rum is delicious.
Nice. There's a unique flavor or taste with that rum when making, again, there's even my wife, I asked her to sit on this podcast and at least help me, not fall off the drum stool here, but
pass
yeah, or pass drinks, right? Yes. But she even said the same thing. I think she's commented a few times on, out there in social media land about the cocktail that your the main cocktail they have with the
rum
silver,
punch.
Right? The rum punch. So she had Dolly enjoyed that. I think she was a little mad that I wasn't there for that podcast episode where again, we didn't drink a whole lot of rum in that podcast episode, right? But I definitely
we couldn't get too crazy.
Yeah, we didn't get too crazy, but after we were done, I enjoyed some of it at home and so forth. But so I don't know, Brad, maybe we need to have a little bit of a rum fiesta in the 2021 podcast setup. I don't know. I'm not sure what
Threatening me with a good time again.
There it is.
Hold on, my hand. So again, if you've watched my YouTube videos of the 25 days of rumness, and yes, Jeremy, we got to work on the little small bottles.
I know. So we actually have worked on those. The problem is they're just absolutely not cost effective for us to do.
Well, if you make one for me at least, right?
Well, okay. I could do very small quantities. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
Like 2, and I'll print the labels out on my computer, and I'll bring them.
Exactly. I could just print it on there and little Sharpie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just as long as Paul brings more cowbell.
That's it.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. So hold on. Well, let's read this here. So copper bottom. If this is Kirk loves it when I take the glass off because I can't I can't see very well in that corner where I shoot all my videos. So 2 ounces of copper bottom silver rum, 2 ounces of mango juice, 2 ounces of pineapple juice.
Okay.
A splash.
Then you can almost stop. You can. I like to top it off with Sprite or club soda. It's my mom's recipe, so she likes to put the grenadine in there. You don't need the grenadine. The grenadine is just to make it pretty. She likes to turn it pink and it looks
a little bit of color, right?
I like to top it off with either Sprite or club soda, and you're done. You don't need to put any of that other stuff in there.
All right.
Just my opinion. That's it.
Oh, sorry. There you go. Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
Maybe they'll sponsor the podcast next week.
Oh, well, there you go. You heard it.
Heard it here first, folks.
So I'd like to get you in contact with somebody over there, but they don't care about me either. They're just happy to have my products on the shelf.
Well, I know. Unfortunately, here in the I'm not sitting in front of the bar here in the house, so yeah.
You got to reset your broadcast area, buddy.
No, I know. Well, hey, great time to plug I have a Patreon, a link to set up to fund me for stuff. Again, right now I'm looking at this as a hobby because I'm not making any. But again, I do appreciate our podcast, that we did was totally. I think a lot of that craft stuff there, Jeremy, is pretty. Again, the fusing the bottles, the barrels, and one that you want to probably check out is some of the 2021 shows that we have set up for is one of them is with a rum distiller in Scotland.
Oh, in Scotland.
Yes.
Nice.
So we have a show set up. We'll be talking with a Jamie from Jacobite Spirits, and again, right, which you would think rum in Scotland, right? Nobody would not think that, right?
No, I'm almost stoked to see this episode because I've never heard of such a thing in my life, but I might need to be a part of this. I might need to.
Again, that BCC, if we can figure that out.
I was drinking scotch at the beginning of this.
Rum in Scotland, what?
And now we're gonna get rum from Scotland. I think this is this is the end for me. Yeah.
Well, I think I'll right again. I think other than Kirk, I think he is the only one that knows that I am Scottish. Both my folks were born in Scotland. So I don't want to give away too much for that podcast because again we're same thing, and again 5 hours delay. So here we're gonna have an international podcast, but again to your point, Brad, it's like some of those you reach out, you comment this and that, and you kind of weave your way through. And here I'm chatting with this guy who is involved with this company in Scotland. And, to your point, Jeremy, it's right about that same time that you were, starting off in 2016, 2015, 2016. And they, there was all of a sudden like this rum explosion that happened in Scotland. And again, that's the crazy thing is the beauty is it's not just rum within the Caribbean. There's rum that's made all over
the world. That is the beauty of rum is you have your certain spirits that have their countries of origin. You have Scotch obviously in Scotland. You have bourbon in America. You have tequila in Mexico, cachaça in Brazil. You have lots of different spirits that have their countries of origin. Rum is one that is literally made everywhere across the world. And the really cool thing is just about every region has a very distinct style of rum. And I think America, even though America, you know, rum, everybody thinks about whiskeys and bourbons and stuff for America. Rum was actually the first American spirit way, way, way back. But rum in America doesn't really have an identity yet. It's something we're all trying to create right now. But if you go to Jamaica, it's a very distinct style of rum. Puerto Rico has a very distinct. Cuba, Guatemala, everybody has a very distinct style of rum. America is still kind of, you know, we've been so into bourbons and whiskeys that we've kind of lost our identity a little bit on the rum side. And we're trying to kind of, all of us distillers out here now on the rum side, especially the ones of us who are specifically making rum. There's a lot of distilleries out there that make rum as a secondary or a tertiary product. We actually, we focus on rum, and especially those of us who are focusing on rum, we're really trying to pave that identity for the American style of rum. And that's what we're trying to do over here too. So we'll see how it goes.
Love it.
Awesome.
Considering that Florida has gigantic sugar reserves.
Right.
That's literally grow it.
Yeah. I mean, Louisiana, Florida, I mean, there's places like that, I mean, we're just ripe to make rum. There's no reason that we shouldn't be making rum down here. Yep. So we do. I mean, Louisiana is another one. There's so much sugar cane in Louisiana, same as Florida. And it's just, it's almost wrong not to make rum in those places,
Right. Somewhere along the lines, just recently I saw somebody mention about, to your point, Brad, is we talked earlier about pirates, right? Is there's a lot of, obviously Scottish pirates, and how I think this will be interesting with the conversation with Jamie from Jacobite Rums, is how there's that connection there, and where obviously you watch every Pirates of the Caribbean movie, it's always rum, right? So which is great, right? But at some certain point, I think the rum, rumness tied to that had kind of stopped. Probably maybe it'd be interesting when the pirates had ended as well, right? To bring some of that back, and I don't know, and then the Scotch kind of maybe grew some of it. But yeah, so again, I know Brad, on our podcast we talked about when I was on guest on your show, was the 20 however many podcasts to watch, and the gentleman had mentioned that, had posted that, had connected me with these guys over there in Scotland, because again there's a whole rum in Scotland just don't, again, considering for me again, somebody who was very close to, so you may or may not see in that podcast, I may or may not do any promo stuff with my kilt, wearing my kilt, so
you must.
Was that
But you might.
I might. Again, we're again, if Jamie from Jacobite Rums is listening, we'll definitely we're trying to line up to the podcast to post just right before Burns Night. It's he's one of the he's kind of like Shakespeare version of for Scotland, right? So Robert Burns is there's a big night here in January, so we're locked into do our podcast recording. So we'll probably do it live like we're doing here, and then we'll post it. So it'll be it's interesting. Again, there's a lot of stuff that's out there. Again, back to the point about us talking about how things are so restrictive. There's things that you're never going to be able to try.
Yeah, and that goes back to some of the country stuff too. I mean, I would love to export to Scotland or anywhere else, honestly. But every country, not only United States has got enough regulations on its own, every country has their own regulations on top of that. So now we have to get approved to sell in every one of those countries. Think about this, the labeling requirements in America with the government warnings and all the different things you have to put on a label are going to be different from country to country. So you have to have a whole new set of labels. A lot of countries are, instead of like our standard bottles in the United States are 750 milliliters. Well, a lot of countries it's 700 milliliters. So now we have to have a whole, and so you have different standards of fill too. So now we have to have a different bottle to go into a different country with a different label.
Right.
It becomes very cost prohibitive. Even if we had the opportunity to do it, it'd be very cost prohibitive in a lot of ways to get our products in other places just because of the different requirements every country has.
Right. So the yeah, well, at least at minimum, Jeremy, right? We're gone to the metric system, so it should be fairly easier, right?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I mean, 750 milliliters could be 3 gallons. It could be 3 ounces. I honestly don't know. I set the level. I set the level in there, and it just fills it up. I mean, you could tell me it was 3 miles, and I wouldn't know the difference. I mean,
Challenge accepted.
yeah.
We get a boat. We're going to Scotland. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down. I love sailing. Favorite thing.
So the
All sponsored, right?
yes, yeah, of course, yeah. I just saw a boat today sitting out in the middle of the street over by the practice place, and I asked the guy, I was like, "What's up with this boat?" I'm like, "Oh, that's somebody else's." So yeah, but it definitely won't take us to Scotland. That's for sure.
It might.
It won't even.
It might. It probably
It won't
won't,
even.
but it might.
It won't even take us to Bahamas.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. So
Reasons, right?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, 2021. Hopefully everyone's got a lot of things that they had planned for this year. That may not have happened or changed or altered and so forth can take a lot of advantage, for y'all, as well as, some of the folks that we're trying to line up here on the Drums and Rums podcast is, as I mentioned, distillers in Scotland and again, just finding out how much more rum products are out there, and so forth, as well as hopefully trying to line up a couple of drum instructors, drum people in the industry there. Again, until I've confirmed, don't want to give it away too much, but some of the folks that we had on tonight or we talked about has been involved with some of these folks, and so I'm just looking forward to 2021, lining up guests, as well as a podcast we recently just had with Harley Mitchell, our first female drummer on the podcast.
Nice.
And here in South Florida, and she is endorsed by Collision Drumsticks, and hopefully we can do some things here in March for coming up. So anyway, I'm just really excited about March. Again, I know it's been a lot of challenge for me to be very consistent. As Brad, again, I've talked to Brad a lot about
It's tough. It's tough. It's an undertaking. Like I said, we're just doing. Tomorrow will be 50 weeks of live shows, and that's every Wednesday for 50 weeks. It's been and it has been a commitment that I'm thrilled to have been a part of. I met so many great people and got to reconnect with a lot of really great people. So with that being said, Paul, I'm very, very proud of you. I'm very proud of Drums and Rums. I'm elated to have got to know you over the last few months, and I look forward to the future of Drums and Rums, and I'm happy to be part of it in any way that you deem fit. And you are always welcome on our show, the Jams and Cocktails live podcast, 8 p.m. Wednesday night.
I love it.
Seriously, Jeremy, it was great to hang out with you and get to know you a little bit tonight. Kirk, great to get to know you a little bit tonight. I have to get out of here because I'm probably gonna pass out. Not gonna lie. I've been drinking for a while.
Now, Brad, you have to. We also have we have a Facebook live broadcast that my wife and I do every Friday morning at 11:30 a.m.
Get the hell out of here.
Yes,
So
you got to check it out, Brad.
So you got to check it out. If you think, I don't know, never mind. If you think I have anything to say, you should listen to my wife. I literally shut up and just try to keep her in line. That's all I do.
Does this broadcast from the Copper Bottom Blues Distillery Facebook page?
Yeah, so
Fridays at 11.
We actually do a dual live feed now. We do it on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah.
Nice.
Same. That's tight. I will check that out.
Check it out.
Because Friday mornings I'm usually like in my office drinking coffee and working. So I'll throw it up on the TV.
Friday because it's New Year's Day, but we'll be starting next Friday again for the New Year.
I hear you. New Year's Eve is my birthday, so this is the first New Year's Day that I did not schedule a show or literally anything to do. So I'll probably get a little hectic on the 31st, so I'll probably be out of commission all of the first. So first day of 2021, real good in my book.
So again, there's Brad. You have a great person there with you in your podcast and your live shows. Your rock, right?
You talking about Derek? Right?
Wow. All right. You're sleeping on the couch tonight. All right. I was talking about Jordan, but okay,
Jordan.
then.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway,
still watching.
Yeah, well, I don't know. She was commenting on YouTube, so we don't know. So, but as well too, I want to give thanks to my wife for putting up with this stuff, and the idea for she's watching dog or Brad. Yeah, you're in the dog house. Oh, sorry, Brad. Charlene and Jordan are now going back and forth. So we're both toast. But yeah, for my wife Charlene and help, again, or my whole family for that reason is this craziness, this endeavor, drums and rums, and especially the last 25 days with the rum podcast, the rum
the advent calendar.
Yes,
my favorite thing all year. It's been so awesome. It's been really fun to follow that.
I mean, come on, that was good stuff.
So good.
Well, yeah. Did you see the couple towards the end? There are a couple of special guests, right?
I may or may not have been involved, but
that's right. Yes, you may have not been involved, right? So yeah, but yeah, thanks to her and again, my boys helping out certain things here and there, and there's been a couple times where they've helped me. My youngest or oldest has helped me with editing videos and so forth.
I thought you were about to say helps me eat my youngest or something. It's late, I know, but I was like, man, this is going off the tracks here. What's going on?
Yeah, German. Right now, this is so going off the tracks because they brought in Publix chicken, and I haven't had anything yet other than what you see on this table here. Oh. So yeah, we know where this is gonna go.
By the way, what is that on your table there? By your mule cup there, it looks like you got a donut or something over there. What is that?
Oh, well, tell him what it is. Tell him what it is, Paul. I know what it is. I know what it is.
I do not.
So
like
this is
butter
a
up there.
so yeah, so this is again our friend Johnny over there at Connie Code Rum, right? This is the Mango Tango rum cake.
Oh,
Yeah,
So
they
it's-
make so I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you off. Just
Go ahead.
just because it's my favorite thing to talk about, really. So Johnny Ringo, his partner Dee is a master chef, and she created rum cakes out of the Code Rum flavors. So there's 5 different flavors of rum cakes. There's a spiced, key lime, cinnamon, silver, and a mango, which is what Paul has there. And they're on another planet, man. Like they're always just
sounds delicious.
they're the most moist rum cakes that I've ever had. And he just recently developed a way to, well, it's not his way of doing it, but he dropped one in an air fryer one day and air fried
live on your podcast, right?
live on my podcast, but he had been doing it for ages. So it becomes this like super moist cake with this crispy shell on the outside, puts ice cream on it, and a little bit of like a caramel drizzle, and it's another level of delicious. And so that's what that is. Sorry to steal your thunder, Paul, but I love Code Rum cakes. So
I think you did a good job of explaining it, though.
Everybody should run out and get one. In fact, Jeremy, do you know where Caribbean Jack's is near you?
Literally less than a quarter of a mile from our distillery.
If you decide to take a trip up there and have lunch one day, Code Rum has their rum cakes on the menu. You can actually order it as a dessert, and they'll bring it out to you that way. And you can try it for yourself.
All right.
Yeah, I love Caribbean Jack's. Great people there.
All right. Well, when you're up there, you literally need to just go around the corner. We're walking distance to Caribbean Jack's from here.
Also, are you stumbling different or distance? Because that may be important as well.
We can be, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. So Jeremy, over the next few days, here, can I peel you out and we'll go grab some lunch?
Maybe. So you have to remember that there's not a whole. When people ask me like how many employees I have,
right?
So there's 4 of us here. 2 of them live in Tampa, and my wife has a real job. So I'm the only one that's here full time. So depending on what day it is, and depending on if we're open or not, then yes. But we'll see. I'd love to though.
All right. We'll to be continued.
There you go. Yeah, I'm good for dates. Lunch dates are kind of tough for me sometimes.
Yeah. You're more of an after hours guy then, I guess.
True, that too.
Yeah, here. You guys, I'm gonna call it a night because I feel like I gotta zip this lip because I could talk all night long. But really, really great to meet you guys. Congratulations again, Paul, on your first year in podcast business. I look forward to the future with you, man. And cheers to all of you.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Brad. Yep. So there, Jeremy, is the copper bottom silver vanilla. So we have made some vanilla rum or vanilla extract from the copper bottom rum.
So my brother actually did that with our single barrel rum and our vodka. I don't know if he did any with the silver, but I know he did it with the aged rum and he did it with the vodka. My wife likes to make chocolate chip cookies with the single barrel rum vanilla, and it's delicious.
That's pretty. Yeah. Definitely. There was one that we had made with a couple of other styles or flavors or brands or whatever, and one of them happened to be a 151.
Oh.
So as we said, be careful when you're cooking around the open flame.
Very, very true. Yeah, you get flare-ups every now and then.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have a strict no smoking policy in the distillery because it get pretty dangerous in there.
Yeah. So I know we're talking there about some things that I have no idea what I would maybe stepping into, but you talked about the barrels, or I'm sorry, the bottles for the rum, and going from this the more cylindrical versus the this style. I mean, how and this is pretty much a standard barrel or bottle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So any bottle and excuse me, I'm 99% sure Codes is a standard one too. There's a lot of standard bottles out there that you can pretty much get whatever you want. It starts to get very, very expensive when you do a custom bottle. The reason is you have to pay for the initial making of the mold, which is a very large investment. The other problem is the minimum orders on once you have the mold made. Usually the minimum run is like a shipping container full. My problem is I don't have room for a shipping container full of glass around here.
Right.
So it gets pretty expensive to do a custom bottle, which is why, I mean, 90% of the bottles on the shelf, especially from smaller producers, are all going to be standard bottles that you might see 3 or 4 different brands in those same bottles. And that's just because it's a heck of a lot cheaper, but there's a lot of them out there. I mean, you can come up with just about any style and design you want and
Right.
have a really unique bottle. Because honestly, at the end of the day, it's the label that's really going to stand you apart. So the bottle is, yes, it helps, but the label is what makes every product different.
So if we had a bottle that was in a shape of some sort of drum looking thing, it'd be more about trying to attract to the label then.
Yeah, I mean, doing a specific like shaped bottle like that would be super expensive. The last quote I got on doing a custom bottle, now this was a few years ago, they wanted 50 grand for the mold fee.
Wow.
And then it was a minimum like 30,000 bottle runs. So now you're talking, let's say it's $1 a bottle, whatever it happens to be, maybe more, maybe less, but let's just average it at $1. So now you're talking 30 grand in your initial run of bottles. Now you've got 30,000 bottles sitting around. So yeah, it gets tough, honestly. And that's why almost everybody does a standard bottle.
Right.
Unless you've got some serious backing behind you, most places do a standard bottle.
So, because I've seen others that are like the guitar shaped ones, in the stores and so forth. But I guess maybe somebody.
There might even be. I know that there's some glass companies that have done motorcycle shapes and guitar shapes that are actually standard bottles that you can, like, they already have a mold made for them and they sell them as standard bottles. Now I say standard bottles, they're still limited runs. They're going to be more expensive than your traditional standard bottles, but you don't have to have a mold made for them. There are some companies out there that do some specialty shapes and designs that, that might work out. It just depends on if you find what you're looking for. That's the only thing.
Right. So yeah, we'll like I said, when I stop by this week, we'll hopefully get a chance to chat a little bit more.
Yeah,
and again, I'm sure hopefully enough folks Kickstarter it or other than I guess that's always been my thought, was like, well, if it's a Drums and Rums rum, shouldn't it look like something that's drum related, right? But again, to your point, it's not cheap kind of creating that kind of.
Right. I mean, you could make it look like a bass drum.
Right.
But you're going to pay for
it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. To your point. So Kirk signed up already for our Kickstarter account. So
there we go. That's good.
Nice. That's what he was doing. He just left. He was going.
That's right. He was setting it up.
Yeah.
So, I totally appreciate it. A quick few things. Again, all of our drummers had kind of dropped off there, and which again 2021, and again I learned so much about where we're at today. After episode 2, COVID hit, and it's one of those where we, how do we keep this thing going? And for the most part, a lot of folks could probably look at it and say, well, if this is the idea, how do we we'll just wait till this is over. And then, my rest of the year probably would have been pretty much a lot more simpler, but that obviously didn't happen. And, again, like I mentioned, try to kind of keep things moving forward with a lot of, online, YouTube, Zoom, Facebook Live, etc. And it's just been crazy. And then again, appreciate a lot of folks have been also probably cooped up in their houses too, to continue, having a chat and conversation and so forth. And that's one thing that I've learned is over the past year, there's been a lot of people buying stuff on Amazon for audio and video recording, in their homes, because a lot of folks have been like professional broadcasters, etc. Especially like the food channels example, they've all moved into their home, and it's like, man, let's get COVID over with, so us folks that are not on the Food Network or
go back to doing what we want to try to do.
Yeah, right, on your professional high scale level, and us little guys. And but yeah, it's just been a very interesting year, and to look back and consider we're still trucking forward and want to continue to move forward. And I've probably been one of the, again, this is my main thing, but source of income. I'm definitely sure that I probably could have walked away and said, this isn't for me. It's taken up a lot of my time and a lot of my family time, but I'm appreciated to kind of, for the guests that have interest to come on and keep helping keep things going forward, right? So it's been an interesting year. So, but I think we lost Kirk there. So
Yeah. I'll be back.
Yeah, so I think Kirk might put somebody in bed. So yeah, so Jeremy, yeah, for sure. I mean, we definitely said I'll definitely stop by here in the next couple of days. I think we'll if there's other music stuff that if you have it interesting going forward, I'm again if a couple folks here and there, even if it's a little bit of an event and so forth. Have some music, but you're right. It's crazy how, like Kirk, I think you may have mentioned that even like a couple of the local breweries here, you gotta buy your beer, but yeah, if you wanted food, you had to order from the little mom and pop place next door to the brewery, right? So, so it's I don't know, it's crazy. I've learned a lot talking to you and and Johnny about the rum industry and how difficult it is distilling, right? Our how prohibition was gone on many moons ago, right? But yet there's still people making shine in their backyard and so forth.
There's a reason for it. I mean, there's a lot of taxes that are levied on this stuff that I mean, if you keep the taxes real high, and you're always going to have a black market for it, right? You're always going to have the bootleggers out there and the moonshiners,
right? So that is for sure. So so again, I appreciate you guys coming on here, a couple things, 2021, 2020, some of the, drummers, that, have unfortunately have passed. Obviously, the big one is, again, I wish, I got a chance to talk a little bit about with Dave, is Neil Peart. And they are, ironically, in the same year, Eddie Van Halen, passes. And so you think of, from an instrument perspective, is Neil Peart and Eddie Van Halen are quintessentially the guys for whatever instrument you're playing. And here they pass in the same year, right? And that's probably what those two guys got a lot of people into playing music, in the first place. So there's, a few folks, that obviously, again, Neil, I think from what I understand, those that had known him, he was very, secretive or very close to the vest, had been fighting that for a while. So it wasn't too sudden for those that are in the know, but again, those who weren't in the know, obviously it was very shocking, I guess. So, but again, he was a big guy. So, but yeah, 2021. I look forward to a lot of guests, a lot of other things, a lot of collaborations and so forth. Again, a real quick recap of some of our guests here that have been on the podcast, other than, for those that you've come on here tonight, is obviously Kirk, as I said, our pilot, you'll hear Kirk's, you'll hear Kirk's name pop up a couple times through the podcast. Again, he's also sat in on a couple other episodes and so forth. Episode 2, we've gone through and had our first multi-guest podcast with Brad and Renee from Loch Ness Monster. They are a original band here in South Florida. So we talked, Brad and I were, good friends, and Brad and Renee also have a cover project called Portal. And so they're also trying to work through some of the other, playing live, getting people in there, so forth, cover band versus their original project. But definitely check out Loch Ness Monster. A lot of great stuff here to check out. And also Renee's joined me on a couple other podcasts there. And you'll hear it over the duration of this year. So also you met Eric, True Love. Eric is was our first Zoom podcast or remote podcast. And, him and I reached out and connected and so forth. And I knew at some time we would do a Zoom podcast. I just didn't think it would happen that quick. So Eric and I connected through a Facebook group called The Art of Drumming. And again, we had a chat. And again, it was during Christmas, or no, not Christmas, the other holiday, Easter. And this is when COVID was full blown lockdown and so forth, where I had no concept of time, and where my wife reminded me, this is Easter weekend. And again, here I'm scheduling podcasts, trying to keep things going. So I've probably been in the doghouse many times and so forth. And then the next day, which was actually Easter Sunday, I had scheduled that podcast. I think Kirk had mentioned, where with Vic and Alejandro from our first international guests, where I have to thank them big time for coming on the interview. And again, we spanned 11 time zones in that podcast, from Florida all the way to India. And it was really interesting to hear about how COVID was impacting them for perspective of somebody outside the U.S., right? Again, how their countries, three guys 3 different countries talking about how they were dealing with it. And also we talk about their projects, Alejandro's band, Flame or Redemption, and Vic's project, Last Walk. And they're both metal drummers. And again, it was great having them on. I know, there are a lot of what I've learned also is, internet lag and so forth. And just kind of going through some of those podcasts there. And then again, also Ryan Tremblay, he was my first guest from our 4 friends from the Drum Dojo that we had jammed out at Jim Riley's Drum Dojo. Jim Riley is the drummer for Rascal Flatts. So Ryan was our first guest from our little group that we had, went to the Drum Dojo. And this year, he was also supposed to move to Nashville to kind of, move his music career. And he's a full-time musician. And, but again, COVID, boom, we're talking early, still fairly early 2020 that, a lot of that's kind of put his plans on hold. So, we'll see what 2021 holds for Ryan. And then, then again, we had on tonight, on this podcast, Dave Bloom. Again, he was our first drummer podcast there that I've been following for years. And he's the first one I reached out to and just kind of, more in a direct mention and to come through and, a lot of his videos, a lot of drummers, and so forth, whereas Ryan, where, as a musician, he was, he does quite a few different, instruments and so forth. Kind of like, I guess, Dave as well. In episode 7, we had Shane McGuire. Shane is our second guest from the dojo. And this podcast was right in the middle of lockdown happening across the U.S. He talked about how the lockdown was affecting Nashville musicians. And that was kind of a tough part where again, if you're making your living as a musician, you're definitely, kind of really getting, clamped down on things. And so, especially for Ryan there in Nashville, it was kind of, he moved down there and is playing a couple different bands, an original project as well as down on South Broadway. So as we mentioned, Juan Mendoza, very shout out to Dave Bloom for connecting me with Juan Carlito Mendoza. Also, this was our first podcast where I had a co-host, Renee Rivera from Loch Ness Monster, joined me on this show. And Renee and Juan are both middle school teachers, and they discussed what it was like teaching during a pandemic, as one of the many things. So both of them kind of share some of those things going through what it was like just being a teacher, and again, Juan does a lot of his online videos, lessons and so forth. And he does a couple of those through, to offer up that are, for other students and so forth, other than just what's online in YouTube and so forth. So episode 10, we went through our first podcast since going remote. We had Tyler Kulik, and he's a drum teacher at Live Music Community, and the drummer from the band Butch and the Fat Dubes. And Justin is the owner of Live Music Community, a local music school. So this was an interesting, I've known Justin for many years, and we've got some plans to kind of do a few things here with Justin here at his new music school. If you saw our podcast there with Reese Bridges there, we had taped that there at Justin's new place, as well as Tyler. He is a teacher for all of the drum students at Justin's school. So Tyler pretty much plays in like almost every band here locally in our little area. And but yeah, phenomenal drummer. So it was kind of interesting, hearing both of them boss and an employee, I guess, to kind of call it, which they don't look at it that way. So that was kind of a cool little interview there when we got back together. Again, here Renee would join me on our podcast with David Rauf, and he is you probably may have seen him on YouTube. He does a lot of the tips and tricks and little hacks, drum hacks videos you may have seen, as well as being part of Casey Cooper's drum continuous video that they did for his sub. I think 1 million sub. I think Casey hit. So again, that was like, again, middle summer. And then we got a chance to get out of the shack and out of online and got a chance to, and again, what a lot of the podcast has always been about was getting out and doing things live at a place of business, et cetera, and on scene. And this one was with Dan Grabsky of Daytona Beach Drum Center. This is our first podcast with a drum shop. And Dan is, like I said, mentioned as the owner of the Daytona Beach Drum Center. And it was kind of cool. Again, we sat there, we just early one morning, shot the and talked about how he came up through drums, how he got into owning a drum shop, how he's a gear guy, and so on and so forth. So he's, again, check it out if you're in the Central Florida area, or especially if you're on Reverb. Check out Dan's, shop, both physically and Reverb. Daytona Beach Drum Center. He's got a lot of great, very boutique stuff. So these are things that you're not going to find in your box and chain places. So that was kind of a pretty cool. Again, I wasn't allowed to walk out of there. I had other folks making sure I didn't, spend too much going out of, walking out of there. But again, if you're looking for something unique, Dan knows his stuff, right? It's from the gear perspective. So then after that, again, we talked about a little bit about that weekend. I was trying to line up a couple of podcasts there in the Daytona area. And then, podcast lucky number 13 there. And with Mr. Jeremy Craig. And so again, had a great time sitting there. I think it was a Friday night, and we went through and talked about Copper Bottom, how he started, some of the I don't want to say challenges, but I guess pretty much challenges, right? Yeah. And the products he does and some of the collaborations, as we've already talked about tonight on this podcast. And so totally, it was a great weekend. I think Jeremy, that weekend was reminding me, it's like, instead of buying a cabin up in the mountains in Georgia, maybe I just need to buy a little bungalow up in Ormond by the sea or something, because it was great to get back up there. I graduated high school from Daytona.
There is something to say about being close to the beach.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And again, it's Kirk and I both live in the same town, and we or at least for me, it's like, for I tell my kids when we go visit, it's definitely a different vibe than it is here in Jupiter.
Yes, agreed.
Let alone driving on the beach, which I know they don't do a whole lot anymore, but the whole, the approach and the amount of beach you have, and again, so on and so forth. So, but I appreciate the, that was, again, sticking around. I know it was a long day for you on that podcast, right? You kind of punching the,
like a chance day around here, it seems like.
Right. Right. Yeah. At least you got to put in some overtime, right?
Yeah. I'll add that to my bill.
Yeah. Have your people talk to my people.
Right.
So then after that, again, it was our first theme podcast where Craig Cohen and I and he was a high school friend from New Jersey. So we're going way back, and him and I had talked about our bands and drummers that we had grown up listening to when we were in high school, and we'd kind of been more of a here, where are they now with the drummers, the bands that we listened to in high school. And that was kind of fun. It was a little bit of a memory lane for us to come back and listen to things that we forgot about between him and I. And it was, again, it was great connecting. He doesn't even live in New Jersey anymore, but Craig actually lives in Las Vegas. And some of the things that Craig's been working on over during a time is he released a self-produced and instrumentalist album, Catalina Rush, that's available on Spotify. And as well as he does a couple podcasts where he's involved with called Big Screen Book Club and Conversations at Jack Rabbit Slim's. It's a podcast about, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank now. I'm sorry. Pulp Fiction, as well as Slycast, the Sylvester Stallone fan podcast. So again, Craig's also another one of those gone way back. Him and I have shared a lot of, time over the years when we were in our teenage years with long hair and so denim wearing days. So as well there too, again, our guest tonight, Brad Brock. This is our first live podcast that we had at the Twisted Tuna here in Jupiter, Florida. Brad's, as we've talked about, is a one-man band that does percussion and drums with his feet. And, again, we were also joined by our good friend Chris Springer, as we talked about, as well as, Brad had connected me with Johnny here though of Code Rum. And, again, you'll hear a little bit more of him also too. And then after that, episode 16, and in between all my craziness of my travels and so forth, it was Jared Falk of Drumeo. And again, for those of you that are listeners that are drummers, I'm sure you probably know who Jared is, who Drumeo is, or what Drumeo is, and the online platform where a lot of their stuff that they produce out there, a lot of great content and so forth. Again, as Brad mentioned, this is somebody I didn't think I would have any shot at even getting somebody who's in the drum community, but Brett or Jared had responded, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. So, and that was back in September of this year, where we got a chance to catch up. As said, after that was our first rapper, Jamie Bennett of Royal Ruckus. And Jamie and I have known each other for many years, and I've backed him a few live performances. He also kicked off his new restarted his podcast, Brews, Beards, and Shipwrecks. So check out, Jamie's podcast. He's kind of got that thing he started back up where he's talked about, it's everyone's story ends in with something to do with brews, something to do with beards, and some sort of shipwreck story where it's, somebody's got a story where their lives or so forth, they're shipwrecked. And after that, we were recapping here with Scott Stanton. He was our third Drum Dojo guest on the show. He also had plans to make the move to Nashville to break into the music scene, but again, COVID happened and he didn't get that opportunity due to the fact that, again, things totally threw things off. So that's kind of a challenge there. And then again, our next guest was Charles McCann. He was our first restaurateur, and he was the head chef of Nitrogen here in Palm Beach County here in Jupiter. And Charles was also a contestant on Hell's Kitchen. I think it was episode 5, but it was kind of interesting to see and talk to him about his story, his time during doing that, as well as we kind of sampled a couple different rums that he has in his bar there. So super cool place here in Jupiter. They do a lot of, it's kind of like a speakeasy meets a very fine cuisine stuff that, that they make. And then our next episode there, episode 20, was with Johnny from Code Rum. This is our first podcast where we had an on location poolside, tiki backyard poolside area. So again, we talked to Johnny about some of his Code Rum, starting off there, some of his background, treasure hunting that he has been involved with, and some of the diving. He's also got his pirate radio show that he does with Brad on Sunday mornings here on the coast, here locally in West Palm Beach, probably online as well, Sunday mornings. And so again, he's got a lot of great stories, a lot of great interests, as we talked about. Also, a fellow Daytona Beachian, I guess if that's even a word, right? And so that was that podcast there. Eric Sundin, he was my last of our group that was at the Drum Dojo last year in December of 2019. And I catch up with Eric talking through. He's also an instructor. He's actually a teacher. He went to school, did the drum corps with his upbringing, and as a drum teacher at the local high school, middle school, very involved in the community and so forth. So, as well as also his impacts of COVID to go online and to do drum lessons as well too. So that was kind of interesting. I'm great to catch up with Eric and also their band. Drawing a blank now. Sorry. Yeah, we'll edit that out. So Corey Medina Brothers. I'm sorry. There we go. We got it. I got it. So the next podcast we went through was with Reese Bridges. And again, this was one of those I kind of just was trying to see who was interested in the podcast. And Reese reached out to me, and it was great meeting Reese and talking with him about his journey and performing with acts such as the Dirty Vegas. And as well as, it was also our first podcast. We had a live music community. So our guest, Justin Hucker, that we had on earlier, he had opened up a new school, and we got a chance to be the first podcast that he had at the new studio. So we have plans to collaborate more with Justin. But yeah, it was cool sitting down with Reese, and he lives here locally in South Florida. He is in a cover band here in Fleetwood Mac cover band is coming up here in February, be playing here locally in Jupiter, as well as also a Smiths band, tribute band, that's kind of a lot of the 80s stuff. So if you're definitely into that, check out Reese as well. Our 23rd podcast, we were talking with our first meteorologist, and I'm sure a lot of folks probably like, well, why? So how does a meteorologist fit into Drums and Rums? What's that, Kirk?
I said, how does it not work?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So Tim is
Tim's Tim.
Tim is Tim, right? And Tim is also Mr. Tim Drum, right? So what other cooler name to have, right? Especially for us, is to have your last name is Drum, right? Other than finding maybe somebody's last name is Rum. But I thought it would be interesting to have him on as we close the hurricane season and talk about weather. And also, he flipped it around on me and talked about my thoughts on drummers as well too. Ringo and Charlie Watts and other bands that had drummers who also their parts that they play as well too. So it was actually really good. Again, Tim and I work with each other outside of this environment. And so it was great to kind of hear his perspective. And again, his thoughts on weather too. Again, here in Florida, we're always interested in the hurricane season and so forth. So we did not get a chance to drink hurricanes for this podcast, but I think that would have been a little bit too cliche if we did. So, and our 24th podcast there, we talked with Mike Pender, our podcast guest here was somebody, again, reached out and connected with via Facebook, and we did this via Zoom initially. Same thing again. We wanted to talk, in person, but due to COVID things, we kind of wanted to play it more safer. So, again, we kind of continue persevere again, like this whole podcast throughout the beginning of the year. And it was kind of cool hearing his perspective via Zoom he is a musician who performs in theatrical shows in Orlando area and theme parks. So if you're in there, in Disney or Universal or whenever there's many places, there's a good chance that there's some type of show going on. Mike might be the one playing the drums or percussion on that. So it's kind of cool checking out with him. I'm sure we'll get a chance to sync up later again for those that are not, here in Florida that we can't kind of actually be in person. But and then kind of to wrap up the year for a couple of guests that we have not got, not yet to post here, probably within the next few weeks, is as I mentioned, Kirk and I had a podcast here with Graham Christie, and again, Graham's a multi-instrumentalist, drummer, etc., and a lot of I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Kirk, but he was definitely oozing his creativeness, I guess, right, that is going on during COVID, and a lot of thoughts and so forth. And so it's kind of cool catching up with Graham. And then ultimately, as we said, we had a chance to jam afterwards, which again, nobody got a chance to see, but you just have to believe it was awesome. And then my last podcast here for the year prior to this one is with Harley Mitchell. Harley is a drummer here in South Florida, and she drums in one band and plays bass in two other bands. And she is a self-taught drummer, and she's currently endorsed by Collision Drumsticks. So she got a chance to play quite a bit, and so we got a chance to sync up. And again, I've followed her quite a few years prior to the podcast on some of her drum videos as well, since she was fairly South Florida local, native, etc. So that kind of brings us to the end here with all of our guests and some things that we've gone through. I've talked a lot about the things I've learned. One of the things is I need to be consistent. And again, being very much always on the same point with making sure the podcasts are out there. So again, that was always my intent, and due to other things outside of the podcast that control some of these, my life, that kind of curtails it. So I hopefully in 2021 hope to try to improve from that, and we'll see what happens. And like I said, what's up for 2021? Well, as I already mentioned, got a couple of guests coming up here. As I mentioned, a distiller in Scotland, and hope we'll have lined up there. Hopefully, a guest who was part of a band. Hopefully, Jim Donovan will come on here, who's the Rusted Roots. So if you're familiar with the Rusted Roots, their big hit "On My Way," they're the late '90s, early 2000s, as well as a couple other guests here that we have here locally and as well too. So looking forward to 2021, trying to hopefully get my things together too. And again, I hopefully thank everyone for kind of hanging in there and listening, and we'll see where it goes. So I appreciate y'all, Kirk and Jeremy, for hanging in there. So
Cheers, man. Of course.
yes. So the I don't know. Wow, 11:30, 3.5 hours.
Cooking it.
Yeah. Oh, I'll call for an Uber here for. So again, Jeremy, I give you. We'll definitely be talking here shortly, right?
Oh yeah.
So we'll like I said, I'm sure I will be stopping by the next couple of days. Sounds like a lot of the guys here in South Florida has got their order in and be bringing a lot of things back. So again, does that count as individual person or who the intent to who the person's for?
I'm not
Yeah.
that. We'll figure it out.
Okay. So again, I appreciate hanging in there and support of the podcast as well too, and Kirk, again, I mentioned somebody who's always there, the I don't know if the wingman, I don't know, our wives probably would not appreciate that term, right?
That's all good.
Yeah. So the guy who is always like, I'm calling and say, hey, I got this idea, and it's like, oh boy. So again, anything else you guys like to add in there, or Kirk, I'll give you the last words there.
I have a couple of I'll put my personal signatures on for some some of Jeremy's rums that I'll put in that you're gonna get for me, but all good.
All right. And Jeremy?
I think I'm good, man. Congratulations and cheers to you guys, and hopefully it just keeps on going and going and going.
Appreciate it. So again, hopefully everyone's had a great, you guys had a great time, hanging out and BSing and drinking rum, and nothing wrong with that. And hopefully, folks that are kind of still hanging there listening and so forth. I think it was a pretty good little event here. So for our year-end review. So I know, like I said, we ran a little longer. So might actually be the longest podcast ever. So that I've had. So either I'm doing a lot of edit. Either I'm doing a
podcast ever.
hashtag. Either I'm up there in like Joe Rogan territory.
Right.
Either I'm doing a whole lot of editing, or I'm just gonna let it fly and just put it out there.
We got some alien talk going on.
Was that?
Some alien talk, because that's usually what happens in 4 hour.
Yeah.
About the
Well.
4 hour mark.
Yeah. Well, we're not smoking any weed, so
No,
that's at least.
no.
Yeah. So.
I guess that's what. I guess we're done.
Yeah. So, guys, I appreciate you coming on. Again, truly appreciate your support and involvement and so forth. So, again, this is Paul with the Backbeats Meets Spirits. Have a great 2020 and looking forward to 2021. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, guys.